All right, so the light is green on YouTube. The light is green. All right. So, as Grant would say, CoCoTALK, episode 57. It's going to do it live in 3, 2. This is CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. With your host, Mr. Gameplay Goodness himself, SuperCom. All right, good evening, everyone, one and all. Welcome back to CoCoTALK live and on the air and on the internet. We are here. Oh, and I didn't update the bug.
Oh, no.
I did everything else but updating the bug. So
that guy.
So welcome back to episode 56, hosted by Grant Leighty. Hey, and Simon is here. Wait, Simon just joined us, and Coco Man's here. So yeah, actually we're on episode 57. I'll have to update that bug. And we're here, and we're live, and we're on the internet. And I am joined by our panel of experts and just all-around good-looking guys. Special guest host of last weekend, Mr. Grant Leighty, is back with us again. Hello, Grant.
Hello, everybody.
Resident Apple guy and lover of cats, Mark
Hey there.
Overholser is with us. Programmer of awesome things, Paul Thayer is with us.
Hey guys, how's it going?
The king of the demo scene and Mr. Self-Modifying Code himself, Mr. Simon Jonassen is with us. All the way from Ohio, we've got the CoCo Mans with us, Jason.
Hey, how you doing?
Maker of the switcheroo. From
Indeed.
sunny Southern California, living legend himself, Mr. Steve Bjork is with us.
Hey there.
And then from Canada, we have Mr. L. Curtis Boyle.
Hello, everyone.
We're still celebrating Cinco de Mayo here, so that would be the Curtis Boyle for those of you who don't speak Spanish. So we're here. We are live, and thank you all for being here. French, Les Curtis Boyle. And it's CoCoTALK. And I will start off by just saying, last week I want to thank everybody. Retro Innovations is here. He's already sleeping, so welcome, Jim. And, so I want to thank you guys all for doing a great show last weekend. I want to thank my cat now for providing lots of background noise. Hey, cat, what do you need? Hold on. We're doing a live show.
Attention.
Yeah.
Attention. Needs attention.
I just want to thank Jim for being asleep now, because I think that's a simulation of what we all did during his talk last week. So,
Just from the show last week?
Yes.
What happened?
So last week, great show. Thank you guys, all of you. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to, especially to Grant and Curtis and everybody, Steve and Marco and Jason and all you guys. And to everybody who watched, it was nice being able to kind of watch the show and see it from the other side of the screen. That was kind of cool. It was nice to be able to troll. That was fun.
We got to blow your mind with a lot of tech talk.
Yeah, all kinds of tech talk.
Yep.
Got a couple
I'm
of
just
good
glad he
sound
wasn't
bites.
driving at the time, because he might have fallen asleep at the wheel and been in trouble.
Yeah, been great. Horrible.
But what I was able to realize, which I kind of already knew, but it was kind of reinforced, is that the great thing about this show is bigger than all of us. You know, this show is the panel. This show is the audience, and it was great to see that we still had 25 plus people watching us live. God bless you, I think. And it was great that we still had the same panel. We had great topics, and we had a couple special guests. So it's cool.
But Steve, you're forgetting the most important thing. We also have the trolls.
Lots of them.
I did my part. So.
And the trolls
Playing
help
the part
make
of Jim Brain this week will be Steve Strawberry.
Yes. So we forgot to ask the question on the pre-show, but do we have any project updates or acquisitions that we would like to talk about going around the room? Grant Leighty?
No, nothing new here. Just what I do want to say thank you for everybody for their kind words and during my surgery and everything. But other than that, nothing new.
And the gender reassignment's going well?
Oh, shut up. I should have known better.
I haven't heard the pitch of his voice change yet, so I think it's still a work in progress.
Well, see, the problem is Steve's still trolling from last week.
Yeah, that's true.
With your special host, Caitlin Leighty. Mark D. Overholser, anything new to your collection?
No, not this week. You sure it's not Greta Leighty? Sorry.
David, lad, where are you?
Hey, Paul Thayer, the maker of Timberman. I know you've got some updates. Maybe we can get you to speak a little bit longer, but you posted some new blog stuff. Anything else going on?
Oh, no, not really. Just hacking away at Downland 2 and trying to post blog updates as I go along.
Cool. Cool.
I mean, I can elaborate more on that a little later if you
Yeah,
want.
excellent. Simon Jonassen, creator of Controversy and the Facebook group here. We were all minding our own business, and he had to stir the shit pot, apparently. So
No, I think I was the one stirring it.
Eric Gravela.
Oh my God!
Spending time starting that. So
no shortage of drama in our small community, right? So that's good stuff. And Jason, the CoCo man, how's things? How's business?
This little guy here, the switcheroo. It's been an overwhelming positive response to it, and I just like to thank everybody for their enthusiasm. And I'm taking care of everyone as quickly as I can.
There you go. And this is all made in America, right?
As far as I know.
Not outsourcing. You're not outsourcing to any of those. No Canadian labor, right? So.
And how many RMAs have you had to send to Jim Rain so far?
None yet.
Very good. Steve Bjork, anything new and exciting you want to share with us?
Oh, not too much, but I'm definitely trying to put together my own nice modern development system for the CoCo. It just I'm trying to decide which way is the best. I'm kind of more like to use my Windows computer because I've got 3 monitors sitting in front of me here, and you can tell by the glow of my glasses. But I would like to use that system than a Linux system.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you there.
Plenty of options for that.
Yeah. And what about L. Curtis Boyle?
Well, I was just going to say, the CoCo 3 through RF, composite, and RGB can support 3 monitors as well. Unfortunately, they also show the same thing, and some in all but no, I've been a little bit busy with work. I have been doing some work on the ease of use project. I added the first new menu option on G Shell probably in 2 decades, just for helping people debug stuff. It added the dump command as a file option. So, and I've been going through and making a ton of notes on stuff that I wanted to change back in the late 90s, early 2000s, some stuff I've thought of since. So I'm just making notes on how to implement it and where to put it and how to make it backwards compatible so I don't break all the stuff that's already been done over the years. So, but hopefully I'll get some time to sneak in more on that before I get too busy with work.
Was that ease of use or ease of abuse?
Ease of abuse.
No, that's the Facebook group when you guys discuss stuff with Eric.
That's cool. I'm only going to show off one, but I'll show off a few things. But I have more things if we run out of time that I could show off. But so where is one of my doohickeys? Okay, so if anybody follows my Original Gamer Facebook page, you might notice I recently posted a bunch of pictures. I built a Windows 98 gaming PC, which I've been wanting to do for a while. One of the things I have gotten because, and this was Discord discussions that we've had. You hear us talk about Discord all the time, but this is a cool little doohickey here. This is a IDE adapter that uses a compact flash card, so you can basically create a hard drive off of a compact flash card. But to make things even more complicated is that the compact flash card is actually a compact flash to SD card adapter. So I've actually got an SD card inside a CF card going inside this IDE adapter.
Like storage inception.
Yes, and the reason why I did that, and David Ladd talked me into it, and believe it or not, it actually made sense. But the compact flash cards are getting to be more expensive, and they're getting to be less available, whereas SD cards are much more available right now. So I have actually in here a 256 gigabyte SD card, which is pretty big for a retro machine, right? So, so this is
micro SD, right?
It's a micro SD to yes. I have a micro SD to SD adapter to CF to IDE.
Has many layers like an onion.
Yeah, DriveWire, TTL, ESP. So that's one thing I got. Now, last weekend when I was out of town, and thank you guys for continuing the show, I got this, also posted on my Original Gamer Facebook page. But I got the Sears Telegames Atari 2600 combo. This thing's got 3 controllers, probably 24 cartridges. It's a light sixer, but still got the 6 switches. And so, so this was cool. I got this. We went yard sailing when we were in Southwest Georgia. So,
and that awesome wood grain finish.
Yeah, wood grain.
Genuine simulated wood grain.
And then if we have time and anybody has an interest, I'll show these off later. But these are my spoils from CoCo Fest. But I got the CoCo Flash, and I got the John Strong case. So this is a CoCo Flash with the printed case, and I finally booted this thing up, and now I don't know what to do with it, but now I've got a whole new project to learn. So I got CoCo Flash from CoCo Fest. Thank you, Jim Brain and Retro Innovations. And then I also got the Game Master cartridge. This is John Linville's music chip. It also has the demo ROM that has a jukebox and plays a bunch of songs, and so at least I can listen to the music. So these were some things that I wanted that I got at CoCo Fest, and so those are some of my acquisitions since I'm missing out on the show. So there you go. Sorry about that, guys. Took a while. Oh, David Ladd says, for once, somebody listened to me. Yes. Steve Powell says, greetings, everybody. Hey, Steve Powell. So those are my pickups for the week.
Sweet.
Yes. It's good stuff. I think I should also recognize the fact that last week's show, the video version of last week's show, right now currently has 189 views, and that's pretty good. That's a good number for us that we've been, those are our good numbers recently, is somewhere around 200 per week. So we're right in there. So thank you all for watching the show. Another thing, too, are downloads. We've actually reached 6,700 downloads. I remember just not too long ago we were celebrating 5,000. That was a nice milestone. But we're now at 6,700 downloads on the audio version of the show. So that is pretty cool. And then the episode that we just published is episode 56. We've gotten 56 downloads on that, and I just published that late yesterday. So we've already gotten a decent number of audio downloads too. So thank you all for watching the show, for listening to the show.
Well, get 6809 downloads and you're not, man.
That's something we got to screenshot when it happens. Yeah,
we missed the 63091 one, so.
Well, if you want, we'll do a screenshot of it, of some number, and we'll just Photoshop it into 63091.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, Ken,
we could have done that in episode 1. Darn.
Ken just mentioned that. Ken just mentioned that cat number 1 has made it to the show. Here's my CoCo cat. So I'm not sure who else has got a cat out there right now.
I was gonna say, Steve, I know, like, if I can't watch or participate on a Saturday, I usually listen to this while I'm working at work. And everybody looks at me really strangely when I bust out laughing, but they can't hear what I'm laughing about.
They just think you're crazy, that's all.
Yeah, usually. It's all good, though. I might be a little bit. Who knows? So some of those downloads are from me.
Excellent.
Cat number 2.
You're welcome.
Cat number 2, Mark Overholser. We are going to break the 5. I think we made it to 5 cats one episode, so we'll see if we can't break that threshold.
It's a good thing I'm not allergic over the internet to those things.
Yeah, right? Right.
You and me both.
Give us time. They'll come up with the technology.
Allergy transfer.
When Bruce and I were brainstorming for the CoCo Forever, which takes place in the future, he was asking, if we did a CoCo Fest 20 years from now or whatever it was, it goes, would we still be live streaming? What would it be like? And so I just imagined that we would be doing VR, So I basically said, yeah, we'll be streaming CoCoFest in our usual VR setup or something like that, just assuming that's where the technology is going to be at that point in time. But yeah, and I think I made a joke about smell-o-vision too. So I think the technology will be there for sure, where we can enjoy all the unpleasant odors of the real world in the virtual one. So
it'd be just like the old scratch and snip adventure in the rainbow.
Of course, the real feature about 20 years in the future will all be with walkers.
Yeah, but they'll be robotic walkers, and we'll go to 400 miles an hour, so it won't matter.
There you go.
They'll be flying walkers.
Why do you think Google and the other companies want to do these automated cars so that you don't have to drive? Because they want to still be able to get around when they're in the walker stage.
Hey, Disney Saints fan has just joined us. Hello there, sir. Good to see you. Good seeing you at CoCoFest. We've also been joined by Nick Marentes in Australia. Hello, Nick.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Let me take a quick moment before we move on to our next segment in the show. Let's just go ahead and get our sponsors out of the way. And I do have to add the switcheroo on here. I'll get that added. But let's start off by saying CoCoTALK is brought to you by the switcheroo, the leading RGB to SCART solution that allows you to switch between composite and RGB with the flip of a switch. To learn more about the switcheroo, go to cocoman.biz. And so there you have it. Don't forget to also visit CoCoVGA.com and BoysonTech.com, as well as go4retro.com for retro innovations. Our retro swag can be found at 8bit256.com. A lot of our bonus content is produced by Extructus Productions at FD501.com. Don't forget to listen to the CoCo Crew podcast at cococrew.org. For all of your color computer needs, visit imacoconut.com. And if you need to reach us on CoCoTALK, the website for CoCoTALK is cocotalk.live, where you can send us feedback and watch replays of the show. You name it, you name it. Ken says, just switch it and forget it. It's like a Ron Popeil thing here right now, right? Set it and forget it. So, the switcheroo.
And I should ask on behalf of Steve Powell in the chat room, he's asking, when will Steve Bjork come out with Color File 3?
Oh, God. Oh. I'm glad my face was turned off at that moment.
I was kind of hoping it would still be on, but...
So we have covered project updates. We have covered... Oh, Nick is here. Nick, do you have any updates on anything you've been working on lately?
No, nothing today. Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, we heard you.
We're waiting for the Australian translator program to finish what you were saying there. So
It was hung up on G'day, I think.
Right. We had a couple of feedbacks on some of our most recent episodes, and so on episode one of the Vic 20 or one of the recent episodes, we had a person named Joseph Ruff say, "Why did Tandy originally make the CoCo with a chiclet keyboard when the Vic 20 sold for a comparable price and had a full travel keyboard?" I think we know the answer to that, right?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. I think, first of all, Commodore with the PET before the VIC 20, which came out over a year after the CoCo did, they'd had a chiclet keyboard too. So, I mean, Commodore did the same thing. Just
original one, yeah. Yep. And decided that didn't work too well.
Yeah. As did Tandy, because on the CoCo 2, they brought out the melted keyboard and then the full travel one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet everyone has a chiclet keyboard nowadays.
Yeah, they were way ahead of its time.
For like the Bluetooth keyboards and everything, or laptops and.
Yeah. Mac. You look at a modern Mac now.
Yeah,
yep.
True.
And I've got one right here. It's a chiclet style, and it's a full 105 keys.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons too is probably just cost, right? With Tandy, everything was about what can we create, what can we produce with the least amount of money, right? Maximum profit for minimal cost.
Well, I guess that was one keyboard that came out that had the rubber membrane inside, and was most keyboards at the time were all more expensive switches and mechanical stuff. So I guess it would have been a cost thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which as we saw, just about all keyboards changed to that rubber membrane later on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the other thing too, with the smaller keys, they could do those overlays for different educational games and like that, and that was really their thinking too. That's why the keys were so small.
And there's a fair number of third parties like Master Control and stuff that actually use those overlays as well. So, and word processors and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of neat having those things. I think some of the painting programs had that. I think the color cubes, that was like the Rubik cube, that might have had one too. Some of those overlays. I think what we forget sometimes too is that the CoCo was based off of, first it was the AgVision, then it was the Videotex, which was just a dedicated terminal, and then it became the CoCo. So some of its origins are predate the 80s, like some late 70s type stuff is where some of these parts originally came from.
Yep, that's true.
And also, let's not forget also that the Tandy were ahead of their game with the silver finish. I mean, everyone said, "Oh, that ugly silver grey finish was so dated," and everyone started going white. But look at them now. Look at the Macs. Well, they're silver.
Yeah, that is true.
It's become fashionable. So,
yeah. I mean, there was a time literally when Tandy did innovate.
It seems so long ago now.
Yeah.
They were just too early.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that gray, if I'm not mistaken, was called Mercedes gray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we always called it Battleship gray, but
Battleship gray.
Yeah. But Mercedes sounds better.
It does. It does. Sorry, I'm trying to update the bug, and then that just hijacked the thing right there.
You get to see the editing live.
Yes. And then we got another feedback from his YouTube name is called Tricob or Treecob 1974. He was commenting on CoCoTALK episode 32, where we were talking about Forest of Doom, the Forest of Doom world premiere. And he says, a bit belated, but thank you for posting this video on Moore. I didn't realize he did Space Lab and Explorer. When he says Moore, he's talking about Bruce Moore. I didn't realize he did Space Lab and Explorer. Does he have a disc collection uploaded of his releases yet? So that part I'm actually not sure of. We'll have to ask Bruce Moore next time he's on. And what was this? What was the library that he used, Curtis? That was the cassette library.
I can't remember the name of it.
Rick Adams had a comment on chiclet keys and cassette recorders.
Yeah, he basically says it was good enough to develop Temple of Ram for.
There we go, yeah. Chiclet keys and cassette recorder were good enough for Temple of Ram, so there.
We're just whiners.
Steve, you started doing cross-platform development fairly early on, right?
Actually,
terminals or?
Well, actually, I used a terminal, but it was for an 80-column display for the CoCo. What I would do, well, actually, EdTasm, it actually worked sending out its signals to a terminal, and what they did is they wrote a driver in EdTasm to emulate that to get it onto the screen. Well, what I did is I just patched into it and sent every character not to just the screen, but also out the bitbanger port, and that went to a terminal and did everything. So I could do screen edit on the terminal.
Okay.
Nice.
And like that. But yeah, I stayed with the CoCo developing up until, I would say MS-DOS 6 days. And that's when I started using the PC for a lot of the work.
Yeah, that was the one thing I did not like about EdTasm when I was learning assembly, was doing it on a 32-column screen. Kind of gets things mixed up a little bit. It's harder to read is all.
Right, and Nick posted something recently, right, where Robert Gault's EdTasm has been updated to the 80 column by 38 lines, 80 by 28 or something.
There's been a few updates to the old EdTasm over the years. Even Rainbow had a super patched EdTasm, and
Roger Schraggs.
Roger Schraggs one as well. But that one, the one that Robert Gault's done is been patched probably the most, in that it also supports 6309 and has added a lot more extra functionality. And the post I did just the other 2 weeks ago or so was when I actually approached Robert and I said, oh, look, how about supporting a 28 line display, or using 225 scan lines? And he said, oh, I don't know. And I said, oh yeah, you can do it, you've done everything else. So he did. He patched it and now it runs it's only 4 lines extra, but oh well,
that's
why
cool.
not?
Is that what you use, Nick, when you're developing?
All the time, for years.
Yep. He's truly retro.
Oh, or backward. or both. I find it quite okay. I mean, I like to stay within the old retro color computer environment. So, and it's fast enough. I mean, I compile Popstar Pilot which was a how many lines was that? There was quite a long. I filled the buffer up. It was a big program, and yet it would assemble in probably 2 minutes. It would be done. It's fine.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's all.
If you've bought Robert Gault's EdTasm 6309 in the past, just contact him. He'll send you a new update. That's what I did, and that's what David Lack did.
Yeah.
Or if you want to buy it, contact him. He doesn't take PayPal. You have to send him a check or money order. But yeah.
What do you? Actually, I'll leave this for off camera. That's all right. I had another idea, but.
Well, let me just say real quick. So Steve Powell in the live chat is saying, did any of you guys ever actually use the Color Finance cartridge?
That's why I'm broke.
That's a tall screen you got there, Mr. Steve Bjork.
Yeah, so Steve's got a
I'm trying to hold it right, but this here is what I use for editing stuff. It's a monitor and portrait.
Wow, that's a tall one.
So we're looking at about probably 70 lines of code I can put up at once.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Pretty cool.
Mind you, when I actually do programs, because the Robert Gault program also supports the drive wire as well, so I can print an entire listing to an ASCII file on the PC. So I actually edit it in Microsoft Word.
Okay.
Yeah, I've broken the mold a bit there. So
okay.
Yeah, I actually edit together in Microsoft Word or any other editor on the PC, and then I just transcode it across to the CoCo. Then I do the most of the work on the CoCo. But yeah, I agree. Having a really big display so you can see as much of your code as possible makes it easier. And also a screen-based editor. That was the one thing that I still wanted in the editor. I wanted a screen-based editor that I can just move the cursor around and literally paint the lines on the screen. It's easier than the edit command. So unfortunately, that's one thing that isn't in the EdTasm. But I've gotten used to it. But big listings, I definitely do port them across.
Well, the other thing, and I kind of like the idea of having something where you got a lot of memory, is you don't have to do 20 or 30 includes to assemble your program. And I also really, really love large descriptive labels that say what the heck they are. Cuts down the commenting.
Well, I don't use any includes at the moment. Popstar Pilot was done includeless, and my comments are short.
So Retro Innovation says he doesn't use color finance, only monochrome finance here. None of this color crap. Oh yeah, and get off my lawn, right? And speaking of being able to edit text, and this has become the community episode, by the way. I've decided to name it, and I've updated the bug because we're going to talk about some stuff that's happened in the community this week. But so there's been some questions in Facebook, people asking for things. I asked for something, and I actually got some help, and I think Paul Thayer has offered to share something with me as well, which I haven't had a chance to take him up on yet. But one of the tools I was asking for was a Windows-based GUI tool that would allow me to look at a disk image, look at a basic program, and then be able to view it and edit it on a PC, because as Nick Marentes just pointed out, trying to edit on a CoCo sucks for a variety of reasons. Number one, the editors don't exist. Number two, you got 32 columns. If those aren't two good enough reasons, we could come up with more. So I have a workable tool that allows me to do that, and with that tool, and I'll just show you guys real quick, I was able to finally finish my fonts that I'm going to be using in my Cosmic Aliens game here. So I'll just show you that demo real quick. These are my fonts that have all been tweaked in my little routine that now lets me print out whatever text I want to do. And the fonts had been made, but there was, because I'm using the extended basic draw command, there was this weird odd pixel spacings where every now and then they would start to drift from their alignment and get into this weird funkiness. So I had to tweak a handful of letters, and now I have perfect fonts, as perfect as you can get with a 3x5 matrix, and they work. So the next thing I will be doing is putting these back into the game and working on the game. So that's a little bit of a project update there for me too. And that came, the ability to do that quickly and easily came from a tool I got by reaching out and asking the community for help.
Cool.
So what tool do you use to transfer a DSK from the CoCo to the PC?
Well,
or to extract a file rather from a DSK to the PC.
It's something that John Strong had sent me, and it's one of his tools, and I don't know that it's completely available to the public just yet because it's a little bit of a work in progress, but he gave me something that would work good enough for me, and it worked. So now Paul Fiscarelli showed some screenshots of his tool. We saw a peek of that last year at Tandy Assembly, but he's working on a very cool tool that is a visual disk explorer that lets you look at disk images and not only view the file contents and look at them in like a disk hex editing mode, but then it would also do a disassembly and show you what a binary file would look like. It would do a detokenization and show you the basic listings. It would do file format viewing on a lot of popular CoCo files. So if you clicked on something, it would just show you the image in a on a preview window on the side. So a very robust like Windows Explorer for disk images that he was working on. Cool. Yeah, and so he showed it off at Tandy Assembly last year, and he says he hasn't done a lot more to it, but he's going to hopefully have it finished soon. But that seems like that's a holy grail tool right there. Most of the solutions people were pitching were using Linux and a bunch of command line tools, and I don't want to do either one of those. I need ease of use, So I'm a Windows guy, I'm a GUI guy, and if it's not easy, I'm not doing it, period. So
I use WImage tool, and is that MES that comes with, Simon?
Yeah, MES.
And that you just kind of like open, you can create a disk in several different formats, and then you kind of just drag and drop files on them that are basic or binary, whatever, and it has the details on those too, like sizes and what their category and flag would be on the directory. It's a pretty cool and really easy to use transfer type of program. So.
Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully we can get together and you can give me a little tutorial on that. I'm open to having a couple of options.
It's super easy. So
yeah, who's joined us in the live chat here? Rob Inman says, I saw a CPM 4 megahertz Z80 cartridge advert in Rainbow. RS disk controller plugs into it as pass-through. Ever seen it in the wild? And so what was your answer to that one, Curtis?
Yeah, I actually saw them at Rainbow Fest. There was two companies that made them. I can't remember. The Color Power was one, and I can't remember the name of the second one. But yeah, they had a 4 megahertz Z80 and CPM, and it was about $250.
Wow!
It was this big cartridge thing you plugged in. Their disk controller, I did plug in as a pass-through, but you could actually boot up and run CPM on an 80 column. It even came with an 80 column card built into it too.
Would it have like a composite output from the card?
Yeah.
For a monitor?
Yeah, for composite monochrome, yeah.
Okay, very cool.
That would be handy.
Yeah.
You could develop on the CoCo and then transfer back.
Cool. Would software look right in 32 columns?
Well, they usually came with the 80 column card built in too, so you didn't have to worry about that for the CPM stuff.
Okay, gotcha. That's kind of cool. That's an oddity. And when last week when during Jim Brain's very short segment, one of the things he was talking about was how many different devices could we stick in an 8-port multi-pack, and it sounds like we've got another one to add to the list there, right? An 80 column CPM card.
Yeah.
I guarantee he might have problems with that, along with like the speech sound pack. It's going to take a lot of juice with that Z80.
And Rick Adams says, there was an all uppercase card with no question mark. All right, somebody's just hijacked the screen share here, so we're seeing Emu Disc.
Oh.
Who's showing us this right now?
Oh, it's me. Does the screen share take over the entire screen, does it?
It certainly does.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, then I'll quickly show you this then. Well, that's good to know. I don't like that David Ladd. I'll just screen share something. Okay, well, Emu Disc is a utility that I've always used. It's still a bit buggy, and unfortunately the author hasn't come back to fix it. But it's basically a point and click. So it opens up a window, and you just I'm just going to drag from another window a DSK file, and I'll just drag it in there, and it just pops straight up. You can see what's in it. Files. And if I want to grab one of the files, like my ASM file, I just grab that and drag it to the desktop. And then I have a file I can just open up in Word or in whatever editor I want to use. And I can edit it, yeah.
And that's the way to go.
Yeah, and I can open up multiple desktops, windows rather. See, I've opened up a second one. So now I've got 2 DSKs open, and now I can just drag a file from one DSK to another. I can delete any files in there. I'll just close these windows. I can create a new DSK, and it's got various options. It's got various options as well, so I can create different size DSKs. So I use that very well, but it is buggy. And I think what you've got to do with this program, anyone wants to use it, if you open a DSK in there, make sure you close it and then close the program, because it gets muddled up with the closing, and then it just...
And will it corrupt the disk image potentially?
The DSK.
That would be my concern.
As long as you open it, do what you want with it, and close it, and then close the program, I seem to have no trouble. So it is buggy, and hopefully one day he will come back and he will fix it. So now
it's like a caching problem.
Yeah, it probably is. So anyway, so I'll unshare so we can bring back the David Ladd picture.
Okay. Well, I believe he did surface in the community late last year and was talking about reviving the project, and I don't know that we've heard anything from him since then. But that was so. These are the kind of tools that. Listen, it seems like a lot of developers, if you're a developer and you've got that super techno brain, then running Linux and running CLI workflows is probably nothing more for you to do. But for me, I'm none of the above. I'm not a professional programmer. I'm not a Linux guy. I'm not a CLI type guy. So I need user-friendly tools. And I'm admittedly, I'm just lazy too. So I'm not going to deny that. So those to me, I think if you can create a few tools like this that help the average person, I think we can be a little bit more empowered to crank out more stuff. Just reduce that workflow time.
Yeah, and Steve, it's not just laziness either. I mean, sometimes when the not so fun parts of development are more laborious and tedious, you can kind of lose motivation to work on the project.
Exactly.
And so when you have easier to use tools that can help you accomplish great things faster, then you can stay motivated easier. That's what I find anyway.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And Dave Phillipsen has joined us in the live chat. Hey, Dave. Dave, we need to get you on the call, because I was trying to ask, and I'm sorry, I don't remember everybody, but I was trying to ask a little bit more about who you are and stuff, because I know you're new to me, but you're not new to the CoCo. So if you could join us, I know you're on Discord too, but if you could join us in Skype, we'd love to have you on today or sometime in the future. I don't want to put you on the spot. But thanks for being here. I understand Dave's going to be working possibly on the P-term client for Plato and Errata, from what Mark was telling me.
Yeah, he's been looking at it anyway. So he's the guy who did SuperCom, one of the better terminal programs for OS9 back in the day.
SuperCom. SuperCom looks best on a switcheroo.
It even automatically handled Z modem. If it detected the Z modem incoming string, it would just pop up a window and download.
Oh, there's another cat. Here's Coco Cat number 3 from Simon. He looks like mine. I've got a tuxedo-looking cat there. Hello, kitty. Meow meow.
With all these cats around, my eyes are going to really start
right. Okay, so Dave says I'm not set up for Skype, but yeah, we'd love to have you on sometime, Dave. And thanks for being here. What was I going to say? I don't remember. How about we take a commercial break? We've been at this for 40 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll have some more things to talk about. So thank you all. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back here in just a minute.
Hello, I am David Ladd, and you are watching CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live CoCo podcast.
Where can you catch all the latest news and information about the Tandy color computer and compatibles? Oh yeah. I'm talking about the CoCo Crew podcast. Dig it each month. Join John, Neil, and Mike as they lay down the latest news and information about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer and compatibles. Groove to interviews, tech segments, and discussions all about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer. Strut your fine self over to www.cococrew.org and start listening today. The CoCo Crew Podcast. Keeping it CoCo, dig?
Imagine a different world. A world where Tandy Corporation has the upper hand. Where the CoCo surpassed all competitors. And all you have to do is travel back in time without making a single mistake.
CoCo forever.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
You definitely earned this office.
Yes, you're too kind, and thank you.
You want to grab some food before we head back and look at that Alt Reality OS9 module?
It's only 40 years past due, but yeah, sure.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
All right, and I do have an updated. I have an updated version of that too that we can show in a little bit. So Dave Phillipsen says one thing you might want to talk about a bit is the idea I had proposed of using the OS9 environment to develop disk extended color basic assembly programs and transferring files back and forth using the CoCo SDC. Yeah, but we'd like to have you possibly on for that too, Dave. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to bring it up. I don't know enough about it to speak even unintelligently about it. Right before the commercial, Nick, you were asking if you could screen share. Was that something you wanted to do off the air, or is that something you want to do on the air now, or at this time? Or?
No. I saw David Ladd. I thought that's the best time to screen share.
Well, we should do that question.
We can do that. We can do the why did Tandy do that. But before we do the why did Tandy do that, and we haven't gotten to the news segment, but that's okay. There's no wrong order to do this. But I do want to show off the latest, greatest CoCo Forever Teaser 3. So for everyone here, including those on the panel and those of you watching at home live right now, this is the world premiere of CoCo Forever Teaser 3. Are we ready?
Yep.
There we go.
I hope so.
Seatbelts on.
Focus. Oh, wait.
Might need to rewind
I'm
that
riveted.
one. You're riveted.
How does it feel?
what if you could go back in time to just the right moment and ensure that Tandy won?
You definitely earned this office.
Thank you. Yes, you're too kind.
Oh, I'm much happier breaking stuff. Life has been a dream.
But what if you went back to the wrong moment?
Give me that. How do you even know what that was?
Listen, I don't really care about these blueprints. I just want...
Say, who are you? You want to spy for Commodore or something, are you?
Just move!
Oh.
Hey, hold the elevator! Hold the
Stop right there!
Whoa, no need for guns, no need for guns!
So, Mr. Anders, it seems you have stumbled upon my little secret. There is no point in waiting for security. I think you are about to have an accident.
Okay, no!
CoCo forever? Spring-ish 2018.
It's starting to become like a Disney ride opening. Springish 2018.
As long as it doesn't become like Duke Nukem Forever.
I like these flexible timelines.
Starting to get interesting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
Well, the reason why this particular why did they do that is kind of a flashback, almost like this CoCo Forever. I was going through stuff on YouTube this morning, and they suggested a bunch of CoCo videos. And one of the videos was a whole seminar or whatever that Marty Goodman was giving, and he asked me to join him and talk about stuff that was more, quote-unquote, from the Tandy's perspective, and that had to do with the multi-pack. And in that thing, I said a line that I hadn't thought about in maybe 30 years, which is, why did Tandy really make the multi-pack? And it's not the reason you guys think. The multi-pack was designed so parents could plug in the cartridges their kids played a lot, and they could leave them in place so that by flipping a switch, they could select which cartridge to play. That it wasn't to plug in multiple packs, and because at the time they were developing it, the only packs that they had were game cartridges. They were starting to develop the RS-232 pack and, of course, the disk drive controller. But the thing that they really had was multi-packs. And something else I said in the video, it kind of reminded me. Only 2% of CoCo users ever bought a multi-pack.
Wow.
That's honestly higher than I would have thought.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Only 2%.
That's why there's so few of them today.
Yep. And they also had a problem, too, according to the video. I'm looking at this video and going, it must have been true. I was talking, hey, I can quote myself as a source.
That's always reliable.
Yeah, it's just like, and just reminds you how much stuff you've forgotten over the years, too.
Wow.
But the thing at the time in May of '88, they had more multi-packs in the warehouse that needed to be updated than multi-packs they could sell that would work with the CoCo 3. They were, and there's a gentleman that's usually with us from time to time who used to, especially on Discord, that used to go through and worked in Tandy service, and that's one of the things they would do is they would ship him out a lot of multi-packs, and he had to sit there day after day plugging in the new PAL chips.
The PAL chip, yeah. That's Richard Lorbieski.
Unless it was a 3124, and then yeah.
So the reason why they did that is so that parents could plug the cartridges in that their kids would play, and they wouldn't be pulling cartridges in and out of the computer. The only thing they would be doing is turning it on and off so they wouldn't damage the machine.
It's a game selector.
Meant to save wear and tear on the cartridge slot, huh?
You got it.
Interesting.
So, and that's the thing is, now we understand why the multi-pack was so badly damaged. I mean, badly damaged. There's a slip of the tongue. So badly designed. With the idea of thinking of having multiple interrupts and multiple this and what have you. So
I always thought it was designed so you could put Scotch tape on a cartridge and then dump it to a floppy.
No, that worked on the regular cartridge port too. So.
Yes, that's something that give me back those flashbacks of people pirating my software. Why don't you?
Yeah, you weren't a big fan of the 6-to-8 microjournal back then, I'm guessing.
No. I never bought a copy.
Yeah. We got joined in the live chat by Mark Siegel. Hey, Mark. He says you may want to move the camera to the right side of the Tandy Center. Yeah. Bruce Moore is the one who produced that. I'm not sure what artwork he has or what his stylistic motivation is, but we'll be sure to pass that on to him. He might have had just a one stock photo he found online to work with, and that might have been the only angle he had available. We've also been joined by the Timberman himself, Ron Delvaux.
Hello.
Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. You're coming in a little hot there. A little overmodulated.
I have 5 multi-packs.
You have 5 multi-packs. You make up 1% of the 2% sold.
That's where all the stock went, Arizona.
Is this better now?
It's a good place to keep them, though.
Yes, that's better, Ron.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually we have more today, some almost 30 years after Tandy stopped producing the machine. We have more options now for multi-packs than we did back then.
Yeah.
Back then we had the 2. We had the AlphaWare or Color Soft or whatever the heck they're called. They did their PBJ pack, which was 6 slots, and the Tandy one.
And of course Jim has to go to 8 slots. So, and with an option you could do 16. I couldn't go 8. Mine explode.
No.
Yeah, David Ladd just about wet himself when he heard that. So
go big or go home.
I did see the slobber at the booth. People drooling over it.
That's what that puddle was.
Yeah. It wasn't yellow. So I must have been there before David got there.
At the 40th anniversary of CoCo Fest, we might have that problem if we're all wearing our adult diapers. So somebody's got a leak.
And their turbo walkers, just leaving this little trail behind. You can follow the yellow road.
No, TMI.
And this just went to the dumpsters.
What do you mean, just went?
It's been over a year now, honestly.
Well, that is pretty interesting.
Just going on the CoCo Forever thing about Tandy being the winner or whatever, market leader in the 80s. They were actually, maybe not the leader, but they were right up there up till towards the end of the 80s. Not so much with the CoCo, but weren't they the number 1 PC seller in the US at the time? Like the Tandy 1000s were considered to be one of the most popular home-based, I guess, PCs. Like they really had the market.
I think they were. The Tandy 1000 was one of the top ones, and even before that, I mean, the Terracity Model 1 when it first came out, I think was for the time being, it was the top seller too. It outsold the PET and the Apple II.
Yes, so it really they really were the leaders at the time, as the video is trying to trying to say. It's just that they dropped the ball, I guess.
Repeatedly.
Well, what happened really is IBM decided to walk in there, and that age-old attitude of, well, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, just stuck, and so people were buying IBM personal computers right and left because literally they couldn't.
I don't know if I'd quite
couldn't
agree
get fired
with that.
for making a wrong decision.
Yeah, I don't think it was
quite
IBM.
agree with that, though. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think that's when the well, here in Australia anyway, we had the big glut of Taiwanese clones. Mm-hmm. So you were able to buy a PC for a lot less than a Tandy 1000 or a lot less than any other PC. I know this because I used to work for a company before I started working for Tandy. I worked for a company that imported the parts, and I used to be a PC clone builder. And there was literally millions of these clones coming out at a very cheap price. It basically took over the market of everyone, really, not just Tandy things, but Commodore and everything. Yeah,
that was going to be my point. Actually, was the same thing. Was that it's not the IBM PC. The IBM PC took over the business market. I think, like the Tandy Model 2 and stuff went to the wayside after the PC came out. But it was way too expensive for a home user. When the clone market hit, when the Compacts and the Dells and everybody else started coming in with the much cheaper versions, that's when they really took over the home market.
Well, even IBM saw that the home market was going to be a pretty good market. That's why they came out with the PC Junior,
which was a flop.
It was a flop because business wasn't going to buy it. Their business model was set up on corporate.
Yeah, because like you said, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM in the corporate market, but I mean the home user could care less.
I think they were trying to tap into the home market because it's like what you have at work, but for home.
Yeah, but just that they had that infrared keyboard that if you walked in front of it would stop working, and
infrared chiclet keyboard.
A chiclet keyboard. There's another one.
Look at Ron holding up a Hershey chip there. What's going on?
I said it too. I thought it was a chocolate bar.
He just ate it.
6809.
He's now a cyborg.
Crash.
Well, I mean, during my time working as a Radio Shack salesperson around 86 to 87, I sold a bunch of Tandy 1000s. I sold much more Tandy 1000s than I did CoCo 3s, and they were both on the same shelf space. I think what started to happen was MS-DOS kind of established itself as a standard, where we had this time where there were so many different, you had Apple, Atari, Commodore, you had all these different things, but there wasn't a standard. So I think the PC DOS, MS-DOS established itself as a standard. I think competitively the Tandy 1000 was priced much less than a PC XT, which is what its counterpart was. There was some value-added features. It had music from the PC Junior. It had 16 colors from the PC Junior. And I think Tandy was pretty smart to include DeskMate as a kind of productivity suite to come with it, because most people didn't know how to use a computer. Most people were not going to be doing a DOS command prompt type thing to do it. So in fact, you could fire up DeskMate and have this, all your little programs under one roof, which would later become like Microsoft Works and then become Windows and things. I think the timing was great for that product to be there. I think there was the value added of the extra software. The fact you could buy it from Radio Shack. Radio Shack had credibility. Tandy was a name you could trust, and you could speak to somebody in the store about it. So I think there was a period of time where, the Tandy 1000 made a lot of sense to buy, both on the competitive price as well as the value-added software and support you got with it, too.
Yeah, software and hardware.
Yeah, and they were pretty good quality PCs, manufacturing-wise. They were well built and well styled and everything. They didn't look like just a cheap tin box like a lot of the other Taiwanese clones. It was like a reputable-looking machine.
Right.
They were a bit under-spec'd, though, compared to the what was coming out in the Taiwanese markets. I mean, Tandy was selling XTs when everyone else was moving into ATs, for example. Tandy still had CGA graphics where everyone was just moving into VGA graphics or EGA or whatever. So they were a bit behind technologically, I guess, to what the rest of the market had, but they were well built, and I liked them.
Yep,
they were good. I remember I always wishing that since Tandy was moving towards MS-DOS, I thought, why don't they make a CoCo 3 or a CoCo 4 as a card? Plug it into a Tandy 1000, and that becomes your new CoCo 4 or whatever. So that way they're still selling their Tandy 1000, and you can still have a CoCo by accessing it via the card, similar to what Apple did with the Apple II cards.
Apple in the Mac LCs.
Yes, the LCs. You just plugged in an Apple II card,
I don't think those ever sold well. I mean, we were just talking in the chat about the CPM card that the CoCo had, because CPM was the predecessor to MS-DOS, and you had a way to get an 80 column card plus the Z80 and actually run CPM software. But and there was other ones, like there was a 6809 card for the Apple II that you could run OS 9 on, the Apple II cards that you could put into the Macs. But I don't think any of those were good sellers. Nobody wanted to buy two computers. Even if you could fit on one cards.
Yeah, the Apple II cards went really well for schools because that let schools upgrade to the Macintosh, the low-cost LCs, and then still use their Apple II software. So the card would go in there, have a little cable.
Did that happen much, though? Because the schools up here that I saw with the Macs, not a single one bought Apple II cards. They just ditched all the Apple IIs and switched over.
Okay. No, it was a transition thing. I mean, not everybody would, but that was what they were intending.
I'm just curious. Maybe it was more popular in the States or in your area. I just was curious.
Personally, I don't remember seeing them, just the Apple IIs, but.
Well, one of the things that the schools were very much interested in with the Macs is they were an all-in-one unit, effectively. You didn't have the ability for the kids to, get in there and start yanking cards out of them and stuff like that. They were screwed together. And that was true. That was one of the main reasons why the schools wanted them. Mm-hmm. Of course, here in California, Apple was trying to put something through where if they donated a computer to the school, they got 200% credit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I remember working in the shop too. The screw head you needed to open up a Mac was a proprietary screw tip too, so you couldn't just open them up. They weren't designed to be worked on by the civilians. Sorry, Nick.
A lot of schools also used TRS-80 Model 3s as well because of the all-in-one case. I remember a lot of the colleges over here had TRS-80 Model 3s. Back in the day when they were teaching BASIC. Tandy had a bit of a foot in the door in the education market as well, with the Tandy Model 3s being all-in-one.
Well, the Model 3 was definitely the one that was supposed to be more professional for business, for schools, and like that, because of being all-in-one unit. Because the Model 1, they were just patching as they went. They developed the machine. They thought they were only going to sell 5,000 of them. And that's all they made. They had one for every store. And they figured they could use it. If it didn't sell, they could use it as the computer to do their accounting on each store. But then they found they needed more capability, such as a floppy drive, so they made that expansion pack. And God, that was a nightmare.
Kind of like our multi-pack.
Disney Tech. What?
Kind of like our multi-pack.
Yeah. I'm old. Trust me, it was worse. Because half the time, it didn't work the connection, because you had a cable, unshielded cable, that went from the back of the Model 1 and plugged into the expansion port, and then you had this humongous board that all the signals would propagate to the memory, to the floppy disk controller, and the RS-232 card that went in, and it didn't plug into like a regular, like the CoCo slot. It actually used pins that it pushed up on. And you had a terrible time of it making connections. So the RS-232 is the most unreliable thing in there. And the thing was a nightmare. And eventually, Tandy had to come out with a special buffered cable that went between the Model 1 and the expansion pack. And everybody that bought expansion pack, they had to give them that buffered cable. And it was not cheap for Tandy. They pretty much wiped out the profits on the first year sales of the expansion pack. They went through a lot of learning.
Well, that was literally a pioneering thing when they made the Model 1. The original TRS-80 was that was engineered. That was completely an original engineered design. Not like the Motorola reference design of the CoCo. They had to come up with that. So that in itself is pretty impressive. Yeah.
They didn't meet the new FCC approvals too when they came for your radio frequency noise coming out of computers. That was, I think, the last one they made that actually didn't meet the spec.
Yep, you had that. Oh, I mean, it was just the Model 1 was a nightmare. The Model 3 was much better because it was a single board computer that had everything on it already.
I have a CoCo 1 that has a sticker on it from the Rochester school system, and also I think this came with it. Remember when they used this device to hook up?
Yeah, the network controller thing where they hooked up to 15 or 16 computers at once.
Yeah, I have this in my collection, and a whole bunch of cables.
Wow. So that was kind of like a MUX for serial cables?
Yep.
It was cassette, wasn't it? I think it used cassette port.
It was cassette. You're correct.
Cassette, okay.
Yep. I have this CoCo 1 has the chiclet keyboard, and the edge of the CoCo is really worn, so it must have been used quite a bit.
Like the palm rest?
Yeah.
Because I remember you'd have one master CoCo which would have the program you're loading off cassette or something, and then it would automatically transfer to all 15 other computers at once.
Right. Pretty cool.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of interesting. We've talked about all these different ways of plugging things in and stuff like that. And Tandy's only concept for that multi-pack was so kids wouldn't have to unplug and plug in their cartridges.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the multi-pack. It's just like they didn't understand the scope.
I had mine pretty well loaded. I had a floppy controller. I had the Orchestra 90 speech sound pack. And then at some point in times I had an X-Pad in there too. So I had a handful of things in my multi-pack. Starting to feel like David Ladd right now. So
yeah, you'll need Jim Brain's 8th slot here, I think, is what you're saying.
Yep. But I never got into RS-232 stuff. I wasn't a modem guy in the days of the CoCo. I didn't get into modems until I got the Tandy 1000.
You missed a lot. There was a ton of good BBSs back in the day. I logged into the CoCo one starting in '83 plus CompuServe.
Oh yeah, it's just
07 31 22.
Yeah, the BBSs were a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, see, back in the day, Stevie wasn't social.
Wow. Hello.
And not much has changed.
Antisocial, yes, but
yeah.
I never said he was antisocial. Just wasn't much social.
Well, I haven't been able to acknowledge this yet, but I'll take a moment here to acknowledge that Dave Phillipsen has joined us on Skype. Hey, Dave, how are you?
He's asleep.
Wow. Still working out
probably mic problems.
I think I just heard you there, Dave. Try speaking again.
Yeah, am I on now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to use an iPad, so I'm wireless, but it seems to be working okay.
Yeah, hey, welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. All right, so what have we been talking about? We've been talking about Tandy.
Why did Tandy do that on the multi-pack?
Why did Tandy do that? Multi-packs and TRS-80s.
And I already wrapped it up, so we can go on to the next thing.
We did. We've been talking about a lot. How about we'll take a commercial break? I'm not sure if you want to tell us a little mini life story or not, Dave, but you'll have time to decide. We'll take a commercial break and then we'll come back. And if you'd like to maybe introduce yourselves to us on the panel as well as those watching at home, you're not obligated to, but if you want to, we'll figure that out when we come back. And then we got news to cover too. So we'll be back in just a moment, folks.
Mine's Garage, as you can see. Color Computers. CoCoTALK. SuperCom. What can you ask for? This is the best.
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a cocoa nut. You could also get yourself a coffee mug like this. Keep your comments to yourself there, Greg. That says, I'm a cocoa nut. You can get yourself a deluxe.
When did Greg sneak
one show? One show and it goes to his head.
Logo on it. You might even be able to get yourself a DVD.
Yeah,
but this one's got to go. 2 hours of gameplay goodness. I got to make new commercials for us to rise up and make the world great again by enjoying quality retro merchandise and CoCo nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Peanut butter banana sandwich. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Especially.
Yes. Well, speaking of the Retro Swag Shop, shameless plug real quick. Here's one of my newer collections here. So this is my Original Gamer shirt with the insert coin logo, which is very cool, arcadey. And this is the jersey style. I actually like these jerseys. They're very, very comfortable, very light material. Very comfortable. So yeah, I got the insert coin Original Gamer t-shirt from the Retro Swag Shop. I think there's another promotion going on with the T-shirt shop now too. I think May 15th you're going to get like 15% off your entire order. So if you're getting ready to place a bulk order on T-shirts and coffee mugs, hold off a couple of days and then go to 8bit256.com and get 15% off of everything. So Dave Phillipsen, do you mind giving us a little origin story? Is that okay if we put you on the spot?
Sure.
So I guess you can start with what you did back in the day and then fast forward to what you're doing now as retro being a hobby.
Yeah, so I live in Illinois, and way back in the 80s when I was just a young man, I roomed with a guy. A couple of us guys roomed together, had an apartment, and one day he came home with I think it was a 32K color computer. I was like, wow, that's cool. I didn't really, I've been interested in electronics since I was a little kid. But he came home with his computer and plugged it in and started playing around. And so when he'd go to work, sometimes when I'd be home at the apartment, I'd fire that thing up and start playing with it. Well, in a very short amount of time, I was marching down to Radio Shack buying my own, but I had kind of limited funds, so I bought a 4K color basic computer. And before too long, I already had I had the screws out of the bottom of the thing, was playing around trying to figure out how to expand the memory. And as you might remember, back at that time, there was a big shortage with dynamic RAM chips and all that kind of stuff. But I do remember buying a set of chips for $50 and upgrading my CoCo 1 to 64K, and even I can't even remember it too well, but I remember piggybacking the chips inside and all kinds of wires and stuff, and then there was some kind of method that somebody came up with to bank in the RAM and copy your ROMs to the RAM, and I figured all that stuff out and was playing with that. And then I got Editasm, and I just really got into it real fast, but that was probably around 1980 or so. And so when I was playing around with assembly and stuff, and had a cassette. It didn't have a disk drive or anything, but when they first announced that OS 9 Level 1 was coming out, I immediately went out and bought it, even before I had a disk drive, because I knew I wanted it, and that was just incentive for me to finally get a disk drive one day. So I got the OS 9. It sat on the shelf for a few weeks, but then I found somewhere, it's been so long ago, I can't remember, found a full height 5 1/4 inch disk drive and got a hold of a disk controller and fired that up, and I thought it was the greatest thing. And the whole idea with multitasking, and it was just, it blew me away that this little CoCo could do so much more than anybody else really at the time. And so I didn't really do that much with Level 1. I might have written a few little programs just to test the waters out and see what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I kind of got busy with work for a while, moved to Texas, and that's where I picked up my CoCo 3 when I was down in Texas. I was in my later 20s. By the time that came out, I don't know, what year did the CoCo 3 come out?
86.
86. So I was probably I probably got it in about 86 or 87, I imagine. And so I lived right down there by near Fort Worth, and used to visit the Tandy warehouse, their national parts and all that stuff. And they'd have all these tables full of junk that was kind of like a flea market. But anyway, so as soon as they announced Level 2, I went out promptly and bought that. And that's when I really started getting interested in OS 9 programming, when I got to Level 2 and got the books and everything, and started really looking into it and experimenting with it. And that kind of led to, at that time, BBSs were very popular. I mean, I was playing around doing dial-up. At that time, I think 4800 baud, 24 or 4800 baud was pretty much the price point where most people could afford to get a modem. And I thought, well, we really need something for the CoCo. There's a few terminal programs out there, but I had a little clone, IBM clone, PC clone that I had picked up somewhere at a flea market, and I liked this one program called ProCom Plus.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have heard of it. I thought, I'm going to make something kind of like this for the CoCo under OS 9. I thought, I'm not going to waste my time on Disk Basic because there's just not very much disk space to work with files and all that kind of stuff. So I thought OS9 would be more fun. And I think I got a Burke at some point in there and got an XT drive, Burke controller. And anyway, so yeah, I developed the SuperCom program, which by the time it started becoming popular, somewhat popular, I don't know exactly how popular it became really because I kind of left the scene. I got involved, I moved back home to Illinois, I got involved in doing programming for big theme parks and amusement parks where you're doing the programming for the robotics and the show control stuff. I linked up with a company in Iowa. I'd met a guy when I lived in Texas, and I quit my job down there and moved back home to Illinois and was traveling around all over the world doing these theme parks. And I even did some stuff here in the States in Orlando, like in Universal Studios back in 1990 before they first opened up. I was helping the guys working on E.T., The Dark Ride, on Hanna-Barbera's Fantastic World, which was a motion-based ride. Wow. And all that kind of stuff. But we were developing it. It was all being developed on PCs, so I was writing stuff in C for that kind of stuff, and we were having a lot of fun and doing a lot of cool stuff. And so I kind of got away from the CoCo for a number of years. And to make a long story short, 2-3 years ago, I don't know how I ran across it, but I saw something on the internet with the CoCo 3 FPGA. Now, I'd heard about Nitrous 9 kind of in the back of my mind. I'd heard about it here and there over the years. And then I heard about this CoCo 3 FPGA, and I kind of started getting interested in using the FPGA to synthesize a 6809, because all of a sudden, hey, you could use a 6809 and you weren't limited to 2 megahertz. You could go up to 25 megahertz. And that's like, wow, that's a big, big step. And I'm coming from the standpoint of a guy who's done some embedded controller type projects, a lot of stuff in our show control things that we did. We used a lot of 6502s, and we did some projects with 68 HC11s, which is somewhat similar to 6809. In some ways, it's a 6801 variant. But, didn't do much with the 6809 because it just kind of came to a dead end with Motorola. Didn't really take it any further and make any microcontrollers out of it or make any faster speeds available and so on. So anyway, when I saw the information about the FPGA, I ordered some little dev kits off of eBay, started hand wiring some things up, and I got one of these, it's a little system called Multicomp that a guy named Grant Searle dreamed up, a 6809 computer, VGA display, keyboard, and so on. And then I kind of got hooked up with Gary Becker, and we started emailing back and forth and testing some things out, and one thing led to another. And so that's kind of where I am today, just kind of getting back into the hobby. And mostly, I still have 3 real CoCo 3s. One of them is got a CoCo SDC in it and a 512K expansion. The other 2 are just kind of sitting on the shelf right now collecting dust, but I have them for whatever I might want to use them. They're brand new. They're just sitting there waiting for me to use them someday.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I remember using SuperCom quite a bit back in the day. There, I think the 2 main ones we used was OS Turn by Von Cato and SuperCom by you. And yours had the built-in call to fire up Z modem as soon as it received the receiving string automatically, so you didn't have to manually try to initiate it, which was, as you said, like Procom Plus, where it was automatic. So
yeah, and that was actually something that was added after I left the scene by a guy named Randy Wilson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot he took it over, didn't he?
Yeah, he integrated. He called or he texted me, or I don't know how it was. He got a hold of me, and I was kind of off in my own world. And he said, "Hey, I've disassembled your whole program. Do you mind if I do a few little modifications and get Z modem going on it and release it to the folks?" And I said, "Yeah, you're fine. Go ahead for it." And so that's how it got integrated. But some of the stuff that I did on that was there was a young guy down in Texas that played around with the CoCo. There was an acquaintance of mine, and I kind of was just the programmer that sit there and implemented things. And he says, well, why don't you try to do this? Why don't you try, can it do this? Or why doesn't it work this way? And I'd add in there, he and a couple other guys that were in the club down there in Dallas called Daltrug. One of the guys, his name was Lee Veal, who had the CoCo 1 serial number 1.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, that's kind of how that came about.
As far as I know, he still has it, though he lives in Mexico now. Or maybe he'd moved back. Somebody was telling me he might have moved back to the States.
Yeah, I talked to him a couple of years ago, and he was, I think, in Oklahoma. He'd been in Mexico. His wife died, and I think that really, he had a hard time with that. And I haven't heard from him for a few years now. But,
cool.
And
not for that situation.
Yeah, and you're going to be doing some more assembly language programming now on CoCo and CoCo derivatives.
Yeah, and I've been playing around a little bit already with the CoCo 3 FPGA. I'm kind of intrigued by some of the new features that Gary has added. So basically, I don't know if you a couple of years ago at CoCo Fest 25. He came out and showed a little demo program that I'd written where we, it started up in a 32-column mode, CoCo 3 and everything, and then it bounced into the 640 by 450, 256 color mode and put some, basically a full character set of the, the standard ANSI line drawing characters and everything that we used to use on the old IBMs and everything back in the day, and kind of demonstrated what was some basic fundamental capabilities of the CoCo 3 FPGA. So I've done a little bit of that, and I did a little bit of work on a BMP file viewer for the CoCo 3 FPGA that was I don't know if I think I'd posted it on the Yahoo group, but so just some things like that. But I do see an interest. I do have a little bit of an interest in this P-term thing. I'm not sure for sure, 100% sure if I'll move forward with that, but if it looks like it's something that a lot of people would like to see for the CoCo, it might be a cool thing to use in one of these little Wi-Fi modules, the ESP8266, and then you could connect to the internet and, on their this P-term, basically a P-term terminal that connects to this server that Toastman has got running.
I rot online.
You're right online, yeah.
Would you start with new code, or would you springboard from your existing terminal program? It's SuperCom, right?
I'd probably just start with new. I mean, I've changed my style quite a bit since I wrote SuperCom. That's been, almost 30 years ago or so. So,
tell me more about your high-res program. Have you seen Sockmaster's High Color 2?
No.
It turns bitmaps into to view on the CoCo 3. If you go to the CoCo Facebook group, I've shown a whole bunch that I've... yeah, here's one of them. I've done a whole bunch of... shoot. Yeah, I got a shaky hand. This takes a BMP file and turns it into a high-res.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know if you do a quick search on YouTube, CoCo 3 FPGA, you'll probably find did a little quick video of the BMP viewer I did where. So Gary added a mode to the CoCo 3 gimme, if you want to call it, that's synthesized in his CoCo 3 FPGA. He added a 640 by 450 mode. The reason he used 450 is that's double of what the 225 scan lines were that were originally available on the CoCo 3, and 256 colors, so 1 byte per pixel. And then he had a palette, since the Altera DE1 has a 12-bit DAC on it. He's got a palette register, so you can actually choose 256 colors out of 4096, I believe. But anyway, yeah, we I really haven't done a whole. Well, I've done not a whole lot with it. Like I say, the BMP viewer, I did that, which isn't really fully implemented. It was just a test thing that I did, and the demo program I did for Gary on that. But it's really easy to program, and Gary's got some extra stuff in the CoCo 3 FPGA that allows you to bypass the MMU. So in other words, if you want to, you're talking about a 640 by 450 screen, that's 288,000 bytes of screen memory there at 256 colors. So that's like, a big chunk of memory. And normally you would have to switch in banks on your MMU and look in those banks and write to them and so on. But Gary came up with a 24-bit register. So actually, it's a 24-bit register and an 8-bit register. So you write the address in 24-bit format into the register, and then whatever you write or read from the 8-bit register is a direct read or write to that address in virtual memory, that 24-bit address. And you can also turn on auto increment so that every time you write or read into that 8-bit register, it'll bump the address pointer. So you can do some, and I did use that trick in the some of the stuff I did to make things happen a little faster on the graphics screen.
That was some suggestions I'd given Gary back several years ago. I suggested things like accessing RAM directly that didn't require banking of RAM, a way of accessing the entire memory 512K. And that's what he came up with. And I also was asking him about a blitter. So that incrementing and auto incrementing and stuff was what he came up with. So
yeah. Now it would be really cool. Gary's got his plate full. I mean, he's still working full-time job, and he's this FPGA stuff isn't exactly easy. But you could even take that a step further and create a blitter where you put in a source address and a destination address and a block size, and whether you want a linear copy or whether you've got if you're going from a linear array of data to like a graphic array that's in a block or a square shape or something like that, and you just hit go, and it takes control away from the CPU. And with the FPGA, you can actually do a memory copy much faster than the CPU could itself, and so you could create a even more powerful blitter with that. But what he's got, I mean, the thing is, I don't think anybody other than myself has even programmed anything that takes advantage of what he already has. So I don't think has a lot of incentive to build a lot of new functionality into this thing, because as it is, there's not a lot of progress on moving forward with it, even the way it is.
And that's one of the big problems about all these sort of add-ons. Who'll support it? You're right. Yeah. You're the only one who has.
Yeah, and there's also competition between Gary Becker's and Roger Taylor's, and Roger's been adding extra stuff on his too, which him or Bill Noble could talk more about, because I don't have one, but Bill does. And it's the same thing. He's added like a math coprocessor functionality and stuff to it too. So, but now you've got two standards trying to compete on this at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. I wish I think Gary started his project first, but I wish, and I don't even know, maybe Roger did follow some of the same things that Gary did. I don't know what kind of compatibility there is between the two, but like Curtis says, you've got two different factions here. You've got one, the people that are following Rogers, and the people like me that are following Gary's project. And probably not a lot of mixing in between the two.
Yeah, they're neat projects, but they're also, I think, very niche. So it's cool that they exist, though. No, that's interesting stuff, and I'm glad I got to learn a little bit more about you, and hopefully we'll have you. We're not done today, but yeah, you're always welcome back on too. So make sure you join us anytime you like. Cool stuff. Real quick, though, just to switch gears for a second, I want to acknowledge a few people in the live chat, some comments that came in earlier, and are now a little bit out of sync with where we are in our discussions. But earlier when we were talking about the Tandy 1000 and compatibility and that whole line, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, James Jones had said that line actually came from the 360 and 370 big iron days, and too bad it got carried long enough to damage the personal computer world. And then later on, Mark Overholser was saying IBM did make solid equipment, but when the 386 came out, IBM was still trying to work on the 286. Yeah, that was interesting that, I think Compaq was one of the first computers that did release a 386 processor. They actually got ahead of IBM instead of trailing in that area.
They were the first one I remember seeing. They were the first machine out to do the 386 in it.
Yeah, so I remember selling NetWare servers on those machines when they came out, Novell NetWare. Yeah, cool stuff. So, yeah, I'm sorry guys in the live chat. It's kind of hard to interrupt when people are talking and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge those comments. Well, we're definitely glad to have you back in the community with us, Dave. I noticed I've seen you on Discord, but there's names that I'm just not as familiar with. I'm somewhat new to the community, and I've got huge gaps in my own personal history because I lost touch with the CoCo around '86, and so everything.
What's Dave's last name?
Phillipsen, yeah. So most of the stuff that happened in the CoCo 3 time and in the OS 9 time, I wasn't riding that wave, so it's all kind of new to me. So I find it interesting, and I appreciate hearing some of that. Anybody have any questions for Dave while he's here before we move on to anything else, or any anecdotes you want to add to some of his topics?
Drive wire.
2 weeks in a row, some deep technical discussions here. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing like some legitimate topics to spruce up the show.
Well, there was one thing I was alluding to earlier when I texted in on the chat, and that is, the whole thing with developing programs for Disk Extended Killer Basic. It's a little difficult because there's just not a lot of resources available. And I was thinking, hey, I've got a CoCo SDC in my CoCo 3. I just verified this last night. You can actually set up, mount a drive 0 with an OS 9 partition and mount a drive 1 with a Disk Basic partition, boot into OS 9. And even though you can't do directories or anything from within OS 9, that other partition is accessible through OS 9. So why not, have the ability to develop assembly language programs under OS 9 where you have more resources? You can have big text files, you can have a fairly powerful assembler, things like that. Assemble the code and put in the proper headers, which is nothing. It's just a few bytes at the beginning and the end of the file so that it can load as a load M under Disk Basic, and save that from OS 9 into the CoCo SDC Disk Basic partition, and then you just reboot your CoCo and I guess remount the drive under Basic and test out what you've assembled under OS 9. Because under OS 9 we've got 80-column editors already. Some of them aren't the greatest, but you could have a source. I mean, the largest single-sided floppy drive you can use in Disk Extended Killer Basic is around 160K. We got source files that are bigger than a whole floppy disk. Under OS 9 you could compile a file that big easily.
Wow. So you're actually talking about doing like cross development on the
totally
CoCo.
Within the CoCo.
Within the CoCo. So you're doing your editing and assembling on OS 9, but then you're basically creating an RS-DOS binary.
Yeah, and
that's interesting.
And it would be easier than the way everybody else pretty much is doing, or I shouldn't say everybody, because I think Nick does it with Editasm or something like that. But
yeah,
a lot of people are using DriveWire. You edit the file on the PC, you assemble the file on the PC, you copy it back over DriveWire onto the color computer, and it just seems like, well, you have two computers running with a kind of a slow connection between the two. DriveWire, when I've seen how fast the SD card can run, DriveWire is considerably slower, and you just do it practically instantaneously like that, flip a switch, and you're over in Basic and running it. So it's just an idea.
Yeah. No, that's that's kind of cool.
But the thing is, if you're developing in OS 9, you might as well make your final product for OS 9, because then you got the extra resources that are available under level 2.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm just saying, if you want to, there's a lot of guys that pretty much are stuck in Extended Color Basic and they don't want to get involved with OS 9. And there are programs that can still be written.
Hey.
Yeah, but you've got the ease of use project.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting idea, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And Curtis has been getting Basic 09 to run faster and easier to use as well. So why use assembly? You could use Basic 09, which is a faster than Extended Color Basic, and not quite assembly level, but you can still create an OS 9 Basic 09 program that runs quite well.
Yep, or you can use a combination of both. You can write some subroutine modules for Basic 09 in ML that you can speed up stuff.
Yeah.
Or in C. If you're into C program, you can use
C. Or Pascal
C.
or COBOL or Fortran. There's a bunch of stuff for OS 9.
That's right. You gradually work your way up to running IDTASM and RS-DOS like I do. Or is that the other way around? Is that backwards or forwards?
Yeah.
Does M-Shell read RS-DOS?
Sorry?
Does M-Shell read RS-DOS?
Yes, it does.
That's in OS 9.
There's a couple of programs. There's RS Copy, there's RS DOS, the utility, M-Shell, all can read directly RS DOS disks. And read and write and to, I should say.
Yeah, great.
I'm just making sure. Is your head okay?
My head's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
The RS DOS that's a command line utility. RS DOS, is that right under OS 9?
Yeah, it doesn't come stock with OS 9, but it's been available since like 1987, 88. That was actually around the same time your old SuperCom.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I like the idea because it's kind of a hybrid. Right now, a lot of people are talking about doing cross-development on a PC and then porting it over to the CoCo that way. This is kind of a little bit more of a compromise where somebody wants to do it on the CoCo, you still can, but now you've got a little bit more robust tool set, a little bit more robust environment to do your editing and assembling in and still create the RS-DOS binaries that are bare metal. I like the idea. I think it's kind of cool. I was able to follow along, so it wasn't too technical.
Well, there's also the development of using the PC where you're not using a second computer because you're running an emulator on the PC for the CoCo, and you can get about 95% of the way there, and then you should test out on the final product.
Yeah.
Actual CoCo.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then, David, I will mention the source code for ASM, like one of the assemblers, is available. It's on the archive, and in fact, it's commented in spots from when we were doing the modifications for 609. So you could actually, add some features to make it compile straight to an RS-DOS without having to write a third-party utility on top of it.
Oh yeah.
That's not even that big. I think it's only 6K assembly program. So.
Okay. Cool stuff. All right, how about we'll take another quick break and then we'll get on to some news topics. We got a bunch of news, and maybe we'll start off by hearing from Paul Thayer since he's here. And Paul's one of the topics in the news today with his current project and his blogs. So we'll do that, and we'll come back with some news. All right, guys, hang in there with us.
Hi, this is Randy Kindig of the Floppy Days podcast. I just love me some CoCo, and nobody covers it better than Steve Strobridge. You're listening to CoCoTALK.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer StevieStrow here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy color computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's IMACoconut.com. Tell them the original gamer StevieStrow sent you. CoCo forever, people.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite. in the forest of doom.
For the Tandy color computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
All right, boys and girls, we are back, and we are now into the news segment of the show, and I'm going to play a cool little sound clip here for us, written by our own L. Curtis Boyle. Woo! Yes, party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth. So yeah, excellent little rock tune there as we break into some news. A couple of things going on in the news this week, but as we get into all of that, I'm going to jump over real quick and we're going to look at Downland 2 development blog by Paul Thayer, who happens to be with us on the call right now. Paul Thayer, author of Timberman, the Ron Delvaux story, also available on the Lifetime Movie Network. And so tell us a little bit about Downland 2 in general. This is a project you're working on, right?
Yes, sir. It's my little side trip away from the Buff Commando one that we have talked about a couple times on the show here. I was kind of happy to notice when I posted the blog that Eric Gaverluck actually liked it. So that was a bonus from the start.
There's some rare praise.
So I was like, all right, cool. Great.
This project might not be doomed from the get-go.
Right, exactly. I don't know. I mean, I played a lot of Downland as a kid. It was the first game that my brother Tim had ever gotten for the... I think we had a CoCo 2 for a little while, and then I believe my dad bought us the CoCo 3 in '87. But I just remember playing Downland a lot as a kid. I had the Black Beauty joystick, so it really sucked for playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I realize that now. But back then, it was just like frustrating, But I don't know. I always kind of had, one of the greatest things about retro video games is what they leave to the imagination, right?
Right.
So playing it. Today's games, a lot of that is gone. You can't imagine anything because what has been imagined is already on screen.
Right.
But anyways, I just wanted to do a new Color Computer 3 kind of twist on the game. Still have some of the old classic things that it has, or elements that it has in it, and add a couple new things that I've thought of that I'm going to add. I don't want to elaborate too much on those because I kind of want to try and keep them an Easter egg for the most part. But
sure. Yeah.
In fact, I even pulled some of the sound effects from the original Downland.
Okay.
Because the splatter effect is just too funny to leave out.
Frank. Yeah, it's a real boinky sound.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I decided this time that I wanted to try and make a blog that was probably more detailed than some people might like.
Okay.
But one of the things that I wanted to do a little bit differently, I learned a lot of stuff from like Nick Marentes' his blog. I learned a lot from Glenn Hewlett's blogs and stuff like that myself. And so I thought I would add a little bit of code and kind of teach some elements of assembly as well.
Okay.
To try and kind of give back to the community. Simon spent a good 2 years of his life struggling through teaching me a lot of the things that I'm laying out in this blog. And now I'm not going to say that they're best practices for everybody or anything like that. It's just a method I use, and if it helps get people started, awesome.
Right.
And then they can take it from there.
Right.
Is there anything else you wanted to know, man?
Well, your latest blog post is about compiling sprites, and we've talked about this a number of times on this show, and it's been I think it was a host discussion or a tech segment on the CoCo Crew podcast at one point in time or another. I don't remember, but we've had Glenn Hewlett on here talking about this. John Strong has talked about this, and so I'll just start off by saying what I think the definition of a sprite is based on arcade hardware and computers that had sprite hardware. But right, so your sprite is kind of like your foreground object, right? So if you're playing Pac-Man, the little chomping mouth That's the sprite. And the idea of a real sprite is that it's always a foreground character. It does not erase the background, which is nice. And I believe a sprite also has the ability to be aware when it comes into contact with another sprite or another element, right? So it has some form of collision detection built into it. And all of these things exist in the form of hardware on arcade machines and on a lot of 8-bit systems, like Atari had sprites and Commodore had sprites, TI had sprites, but the CoCo does not. So whenever we created a game or a game was made and there were objects on the screen, there was no hardware to do this, so people had to do very clever software to create these objects and create the ability for a foreground and background plane to exist, etc. Have I done a good job explaining what a sprite is, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that in the blog too, and kind of like the couple of different varieties that you have of sprites, and a couple of the choices that you have on the color computer. And I even mentioned the fact that, you know, the color computer didn't come with support for hardware sprites.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at a lot of the home systems that did around that same time, the color depth and the sizes were usually limited. You couldn't vary sizes. You couldn't vary color depths, from my experience of the ones that I've seen.
Sure.
Anyway, and so I think that, you know, it's decent not having it there. You know, Tandy left a lot to the imagination of the programmer too. You know,
Right.
but essentially you got
like
a couple of different ways. You got a couple of different methods you can use on the color computer for sprites. I mean, you can pull off a buffer and render to the screen. But that data transfer takes a lot of time, especially if you're going to mask things. So compiling, just writing assembly instructions to draw it, is the fastest way. And there's so many different strategies on, you know, I mentioned in my blog that it's like it can be on a line per line basis what you're going to do. You know, what method of, you know, whether you're going to stack blast, you know, pull from some registers and push them onto the stack in a reverse order, because it takes less cycles and you're going to be able to do that same action in the next line. Cool, let's go that way. Or if you're going to directly load values into a register and put them on the screen. And I find myself a lot of times too, even like, so let's say you start at the top, right? And you work left to right and top to bottom. Sometimes I'll start at the top line and say, oh, I got a lot of the same values in line number 17. And I'll jump down to line 17, draw that there, and then bounce back to wherever I need to go from there. So you don't always, like, you have to kind of change the way that your mind thinks sometimes when you're manually compiling sprites, because it's not always left to right, top to bottom like you're reading or drawing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it was kind of a cool way to think, and I thought I'd share about, you know, some of my experience in that. And I've used some automatic compilers, which is awesome because it saves so much time. But I have to pull graphics out of my editor, save them to a disk, put them into the compiler, and then usually edit the compiler's output anyway, so I'm still doing them manually.
Okay.
So using Excel and GIMP and Notepad to code, and then LW assembler to assemble, and then check it on the emulator. Make sure I didn't make any mistakes. That's pretty much the process that I wrote 15 million pages about in my blog. I had to take some stuff out because I was getting overly detailed too, you know.
Right. So. No, that's cool. And
it's been kind of fun. The blog's kind of slowing down progress a little bit, but
right.
It's all right.
Right. It's
when do you get to program? I mean, do you work every day?
I do work every day. Yes. I spend a lot of my free time programming. I'm not gonna lie. Probably 4 to 5 hours a day I actually end up getting. Probably 3 to 4 days a week I get that much time.
Wow.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah. Big thumbs up from Simon in the background there, yeah.
Yeah, my wife's a good supporter of it, and I still pay, you know, a good amount of attention to my family.
Okay.
You know, mixed in with that. So
yeah.
You just decide when you're gonna sleep?
Yeah, kind of. I usually go. Well, I get home around like 3:30, 4 o'clock from work. I got a promotion a while back where the whole 8-hour thing was kind of like you can do 8 hours if you need to. If you don't have to, you can do less. So that was kind of cool. So that opened up some of my time too. Nice. So I get home around 3:30, 4:30. Nobody's home. I'll code for a while, have dinner, watch TV, and then maybe code for another hour before I go to sleep. Sometimes, yeah. So I got plenty of time.
Cool. Well, I think you picked a cool game to do because Downland definitely was a game that left a lot to the imagination. The whole kind of spelunking motif of that game was kind of cool. The fact that everything was just like a wireframe outline, nothing was painted in, so you had to kind of imagine that, yeah, I'm standing on this platform and I'm in this cave and I'm at this elevation. It was very minimalist, the style of the level design, which was kind of cool. Very quirky on the controls. Your angles had to be just right to jump and to land, and if you landed wrong, you frickin' died, and if you got hit by a drop of acid, you're frickin' screwed. I mean, talk about rage moments playing Downland. Don't get me started. And
I think the controls are pretty good, though. I mean, now that I play it on a Tandy Deluxe, it's a lot better than it was with my Beauties, for sure. And
I never played the unofficial sequel, Cave Walker. I've seen that David Ladd has posted a couple videos of Cave Walker. I've never played that game. There's kind of a cool game on the Xbox 360 called Spelunker or Spelunky or something like that, and that game very much reminds me of Downland a lot. It's a little bit more of a parallaxing platformer too, but it's very cool, and it's actually procedurally generated, so it's never the same game twice. Pretty cool. But yeah,
I'm gonna have keyboard control for the controls on this.
Excellent. But yeah, you picked a great game to create a spiritual successor to. Can't wait to see what you've done with it, and the fact that it's going to be in begin to transcend beyond the P mode 4 color, CoCo 3 revival is kind of cool.
Some of my objects even appear to be rotating, like the diamonds spin now instead of just being stationary. I thought that'd be kind of a cool touch. The keys too.
Yeah.
But what were you going to ask, Ron?
Are you going to make a booklet for it, just like you did with the?
Oh, you know it, man. Absolutely.
Well,
all out production.
Yeah, being that this is kind of the community episode, I definitely want to acknowledge, like one of the great community contributors has definitely been Simon Jonassen. Despite the fact that he uses sawtooth patterns, I still think he's a hell of a nice guy. He has helped out you a lot. He's willing to help out everybody. His contagiousness of support has trickled onto you because you helped me with a tool that helped me generate my pseudo sprites for my basic program. John Strong shared with me a tool to help me do some disc editing. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of community stuff in action going on here. The fact that everybody's helping each other and we all kind of get, we're all stronger for it. Your blog, I will definitely read one of these days. I'm glad I have you here now to give me the audiobook version of it. Glenn Hewlett's blogs on optimizing assembly. I will read one day once I understand assembly. I need to learn how to do it in a non-optimized way.
The one thing that I wanted to do with my blog too was a lot of people are so intimidated by assembly language, man, and I was included. But as soon as you take the dive, it's like it becomes just like BASIC was.
Mark, hold up your cat. We're gonna have 3 cats on screen right now. We're gonna break the internet. Where's my cat? We got 2 cats on screen right now. We're trying to go for a CoCo cat record here. Yeah, no, it's kind of cool that these resources are there, and I know a lot of people have an interest in assembly or learning assembly. So whenever somebody takes that plunge, they'll have blogs to absorb. Like Glenn Hewlett's and yours, and I noticed that you reference Glenn Hewlett's blogs in yours, so that's kind of cool that these resources are out there.
Absolutely, he's a good friend of mine. Haven't talked to him in a little bit. But,
yeah. There's Ron Delvaux's dog Pearl. So we've got now a dog. We've had at least 4 cats and a dog on the show now. So
if I can just interject one thing though, in regards to learning assembly. Unlike BASIC, you got to know the hardware.
Absolutely. That's true.
Yeah.
I just like to say that no animals are harmed during the making of this show.
Yeah, there's a guy at my work. He works in our components lab who is making a single board 68,000 computer, and I didn't even know this until one day he was like, "So what do you do for fun?" And I was telling him that I program 6809 assembly, and he's like, "Why?" And, And I was like, because it's really fun, you know. And then he's like, well, check out this project that I'm doing, and it's kind of like he's making a single board 68,000, you know, computer, and it's like I could ask him the same question, why?
Yeah, why?
You know, because it's cool, it's retro stuff. So he's challenged me with learning some of that and doing some programming on his single board, but he hasn't really expressed what his goal is with it. Yeah. But I know he was able to acquire a lot of components through our work. He paid for them himself, but he got our discounts. So
okay,
yeah, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. But I looked at that, and that has like a 32-bit registers, and there's like I think there's 16 sets of them or something like that.
A total of 16, but a couple of them are semi-reserved.
There was some I was reading that said something about blocking off like the top 8 bits and only using 24, and I don't know, I was kind of confused. I'm not a real big technical guy, so sometimes
that's for the addressing, memory addressing.
Oh, okay. So it only addresses memory in 24 bits.
Right.
But the registers
the original
themselves
68,000, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The later models, like the 68020, could do far more than 24-bit memory addressing.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Because like I was reading that, and I'm like, what the hell does this even mean? And sometimes when I read technical stuff, I'm like, duh, and my brain pulls apart.
Yeah, basically the address registers are 32-bit, but you only had 24 bits of memory you could actually address. So the upper 8 bits you didn't use.
I see. So it's kind of like almost like a gimme on a Color Computer 3 a little bit. There might be more memory than you can access in addressing, but
yeah. Well, it was a flat memory model. You had 8 32-bit data registers, 8 32-bit address registers. So really nice compared to programming in x86.
Yeah, a lot of the opcodes and stuff. I mean, I think that's probably pretty common among all assembly languages. But yeah,
well, more so for Motorola. The thing is, their design philosophy was keep it similar between their chips. That's the reason why you could slide so easily from the 6809 to 68000. They were both being developed pretty much at the same time.
Yeah, 79, 78.
Wow. So I got to learn a lot of his hardware that he's putting on his buses in his computer and everything else too. So I just was mentioning that to kind of emphasize your point, Steve, that you got to know what hardware you're working at, where it's at, you know, in memory. Like that.
And there was a reason that all 3 of the CoCo 4s that were proposed when Tandy canceled the CoCo 3 all used 68000 or their derivatives. Because it was a nice easy step for 6809 programmers to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was OS 968K as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing true about Motorola is when it came to addressing information, you could pretty much use any instruction for it. Where the Intel chips, it was like English. There's always an exception to the rule. And there wasn't that case for the 68000 or the 6809.
Yeah, like if you wanted to do a certain type of an operation, you had to use this register, but not these.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think those Motorola CPU engineers, especially like opcode wise or whatever, I'm not sure how that all works out, but they were really clever in the way that they thought about things, and I like them. That's all.
It's just that a few engineers didn't think they were that clever, so they went off and they built the 6502. Boy, was that the wrong direction.
Yeah.
The 6800 came first, didn't it?
Yeah. So Rick Adams just pasted a link in the live chat to some assembly code. I think this is for the 4-voice music. This was a question that came up in the Facebook group about doing multi-voice music. And, some trolling happened, some heated discussions happened, some insults were thrown. But yeah, I did kind of want to not have a terribly long show today. We're at 2 hours right now. But what I think I would do is let's take a very quick commercial break. We'll come back. We'll talk about hopefully a brief discussion on multi-voice music, and then maybe wrap up the show for this week, because we've got Simon here. Simon was part of that discussion. Steve was part of that discussion. Rick's here in the live chat. Thank you, Paul, for sharing a little bit of that, Paul Thayer. And and I posted a link to your blog in the live chat too on YouTube, and anybody who's a member of the Color Computer Facebook group can also get that. All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial.
Real fast, though, I do want to say something to Paul before he goes. Is that you were trying to message me through Facebook. I don't do Facebook messaging. But if you want to pick my brain, just go to Discord. We're on almost every night.
I got to figure out how to do that, but I will do that.
Yeah,
thank you.
Do Discord. I think if you get over to Discord, you're going to find that it's going to be a great outlet to find the answers that you're searching for.
Yes. All right, cool.
It's a little addictive.
Little? Right. You're not hanging up yet though either, are you, Paul?
No, I'm not going anywhere right now.
Right,
okay.
But that's all good. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Okay, we'll be right back. Yes. Then thank you, Steve Bjork. We'll be back in just a minute.
Hello, this is Grant Leighty with CoCoTALK. Got your CoCo 3 yet?
What's going on, everybody? SuperCom, and I want to say thank you for continuing to watch and listen to CoCoTALK. This guy's annoying, isn't he? Doing the show, we think we put together a pretty good show for you, but this show could be better with your help.
Yeah, he never shuts
up. If you
up.
would like to send a feedback, a comment, a suggestion, a show topic, or maybe even your own little segment or bumper,
at least it's not
then
David
send it
Ladd.
to us via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. The show would be nothing without you. Love to hear from you. Yeah, note to self, don't record videos on a bad hair day either. So,
Gotcha.
Looking like I was wearing a hair piece in those videos.
Well, at least you have hair.
Yeah. Rick Adams says he likes my Bill Clinton impersonation. That's one of the worst Bill Clinton impersonations ever attempted. But all right, so there was a topic in the Facebook group. Who posted the original topic? Who asked the question? Do you guys remember? What was that? Jero? Who asked the question about how to do multi-voice music in assembly originally?
Portuguese guy called Jaro.
Okay, Jaro. So he had asked a question, and people attempted to answer, and I believe Simon had answered and shared some code and was viciously attacked and whatever. But it was an interesting thread, and I think the moral of the story was somebody was asking how to do it. Simon chimed in. I believe Steve Bjork chimed in, and then Rick Adams also shared some of the assembly code, because when he did multi-voice music for Temple of Ram, he used code that Dale Lear used, which I believe they said they got from one of the magazines. It was Hot Cocoa or one of these other Color Computer News. So somebody had posted, years ago, here's how to do multi-voice music on the CoCo. And so it was an interesting question. Maybe we can spend just a few minutes talking about it, the idea behind it, what does it mean, and what are some ways to achieve that polyphonic sound on a computer without a sound chip.
Void of silence.
Yeah.
Well, the code that's running requires 100% of the CPU. In other words, it can do the sound and only the sound. And that's part of the key of its operation, is that it is able to run basically 4 oscillators, which is what tones are. Each tone is an oscillator. And it's able to define it well enough at the CPU's full power that it does create a inverse sawtooth wave of the different notes being mixed together, and it works fine. Wow. And but that's the key to remember, is you have to do it at full speed in order to get the full waveform.
Temple of Ram actually uses something else, and it doesn't create a sawtooth. It actually creates a sine wave, because I disassembled it today.
Right. And the code that's there could also generate a sine wave if it used a lookup table like the way Temple of Ram did.
Well, Temple of Ram uses actually a frequency lookup table, and I do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it also looks up a sine wave file, because if you just do the numbers that are calculated, what they're going to do is go from 0 to 63 for the 16-bit DAC, and then go back to 0 again. But if you send that information through a lookup table, you can then emulate a sine wave, which does sound better than a inverse sawtooth wave.
I do beg to differ. I do beg to differ because I use my ears a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, the problem is speakers cannot reproduce a sawtooth wave or inverted sawtooth wave properly because you're going from one extreme to another instantly, and you need that time for the speaker to respond, and you can get bounce back on the speaker. So that's the reason why you try and use something that's more akin to a sine wave. It's more in tune to what a speaker can reproduce.
Yeah, when you think about it, any musical instrument, the human voice, they may not be perfect sine waves, but they are all forms of a rounded kind of a wave and not squared off or like a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it from the point of view, if we look at something like the SID chip on the C64, you've got 4 different waveforms. Mm-hmm. You've got square wave, you've got the sine wave, you've got the sawtooth, you've got noise.
Mm-hmm.
All of these components make up what is speech, what is music. I mean, how can you turn around and say something is correct? You can't, because it's how do I put it? It's about the individual. I mean, what you hear. Mm-hmm. I mean, you might be hearing undertones. You might be hearing with inherent sawtooth stuff like that. You might be hearing undertones, but if the musician understands what tones interfere with each other, you can actually produce more sound than you would with a straight sine wave.
Yes, that is true. But we're looking at very basic systems that are mixing different tonal qualities together on the fly, and when you do that, a sine wave is much better for the final output. Usually, though, when you use a triangle wave, you send it through a filter so that it can take, when it hits the top and comes down, it can do a little bit of rounding that makes the speaker reproduce it better.
Well, I don't get me wrong. It's not because I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. I tend to use my ears. I mean, my musician made a tune as an XM module on a PC. And the CoCo faithfully reproduces that tune, given the routine I had.
Actually, your routine doesn't reproduce it properly because it never reaches maximum or minimum amplitude that you're trying to generate when you're using a higher frequency tone. Something in the area of about 600 to 1,000 hertz will not be reproduced because your sampling rate is too slow for that routine to work properly. As I said, the machine is using 100% of the CPU in generating it, and it will get through there. If you look at the numbers that you use to do your summation, you'll find that you're looking at much larger numbers than what is in the thing that Rick Adams posted. Right. And what happens is the tone goes up. I don't have my video on, so let me put that on for you because I'm trying to use my hands to help describe a little bit. As the tone goes up, you want to be able to make sure that you reach that same amplitude every time. And then as the tone drops, you want to make sure that you get that same minimum amplitude every time. If you don't, what will happen is the triangle wave will get larger and smaller as it's being reproduced with that lower frequency because you're not always getting the actual wave. You're getting a portion of what you're trying to shoot for. That's the reason why the low tones do work better for you. But the second you start raising your tones up, you're not always going to reach that high point. You're not going to always reach that low point. And you get this artifacting in there. And that actually generates a second or third wave that will become a distortion on the primary wave.
If the distortion is planned by the musician, then it's not a problem.
Right. Let me interrupt here for just a second because I think what we're now starting to talk about are some specific examples of maybe what everything you're saying right now, Steve Bjork, you're commenting on an example of code that Simon posted.
Yes, that was posted in Facebook.
So let me just get back to the original question, though, because he was basically asking, how do you create multi-voice music on the CoCo? So rather than the semantics of Simon's particular example, how about we just try to talk about that topic in a general sense on, and let me start by saying what I think I understand and what I thought I understood back in the day. So from the way I understand how the CoCo does sound, obviously we know there's no synthesizer, whereas an Atari had actual 4 voices of music. The Speech Sound Pack gave us actual multiple polyphonic channels. So everything the CoCo is doing is somehow being done through software trickery. Because the CoCo is using a DAC, you're doing digital audio conversion. So essentially you're creating a sample, right? Using software to create a sample on the CoCo.
Actually, I just want to correct you on one thing. I wouldn't call it trickery. I call it hard work by the CPU.
Okay, hardware by the CPU. Okay.
No, hard working.
Oh, working by the CPU.
But yeah.
But you're writing software to tell the CPU to make the DAC make sounds. Is that a fair generalization?
Yep. Yes. You're trying to actually emulate the sounds by putting numbers out on the DAC.
So let's start with this. When you do the sound command in BASIC, and I say sound 128,1, and it makes that boo, that middle C sound. What is the CoCo doing to make that single voice sound?
Do you want to take that, or you want me to take it, Simon?
You take it.
Okay. Basically, in the CoCo BASIC, they're using a sine table.
Okay.
And it's running through the numbers of the sine table at different speeds. Now, it will skip certain numbers of the sine table based on the frequency that you want. Exactly. But it's trying to emulate this wave, and you get your tone. Now,
the sine table, there's actually a quarter of a period, and it's the same sine table used by the cassette.
Okay.
And it's fixed point numbers.
Mm-hmm. It makes it easy for it to calculate. See, if the computer was just to go from 0 to 63, you would have what's known as an inverse sawtooth.
You just go straight up the line.
You'd go up and then immediately go back down to 0 once you got to the top. Basically, looking like a sawtooth.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of what you want on the cassette, because you're looking at magnetic storage, you want a sine wave to record correctly. They discovered that on the Model 1, when they were doing cassette saves, they're going from 0 to 1 back to 0 again constantly. And that was causing a problem for the system to record correctly. So they put a sine table in there. Well, since there's already a sine table in there, they use it for creating the audio too for when you hit a tone.
Yeah, but they use some funky interrupt shite as well.
Okay. Yeah. So when the CoCo's built-in basic ROM sound generator was working, it's doing a sine wave, right? And a sine wave, and the reason why it's called a sine wave is if you were to look at this on an oscilloscope, it looks like the humps, the rounded humps going up and down, right?
Humps.
Right, but a round hump, right? So the sine wave is smooth, round curves on the oscilloscope, whereas the square wave is your ups and downs like your digital, and then the sawtooth are basically like shark teeth pointing up and down, right? So if you were to look at these on a scope.
And you could see how this would be very easily done for a single note.
Right. So what the CoCo had done out of the box, if you were a programmer in BASIC, is you could generate a single tone. That single tone was a sine wave tone. It was a single voice, meaning not more than one sound at once. It was monophonic, if you will. And in order to generate that sound, it completely consume the CPU. So in BASIC, when you use the sound command, you lost the cursor, the computer stopped, it generated a sound, and then it came back. That's how I understood sound to work as a kid. Now, what the arcade games did, and what some of the more skilled assembly language programmers did, is they took what BASIC gave us, and they were able to produce better quality sound of variety of different sounds, and the ability to produce more than one sound at once. So without getting into specifics, what's a general explanation of how do I go from that one sound to hearing two sounds at the same time?
Well, as you're doing the one sound, you are doing basically a calculation to bring it out. And the problem gets into is when you want to do a second calculation, how do you get it so that it doesn't distort the timing of the first? You've got to have some sort of loop that's going to take the same length of time to do it, whether it's doing one sound or two sound at the time, and etc. And that's the code that Rick posted. Basically has two oscillators that are nothing more than adding numbers together.
Okay.
And then it takes that information, those numbers together, brings it and puts it out onto the DAC. And lo and behold, whether it's actually producing a tone or not producing a tone, it takes the same length of time. Because when you're not producing a tone, you just add 0 to 0, essentially, which does nothing.
Okay.
It doesn't change. But if you add, keep adding this number to the summation number that you keep adding over and over again, that moves the point along. So it is a way to have two things happening at once without changing how long it takes to calculate. And that's the key to doing multiple audio tracks.
Okay, I think I understood 1% of all that, but that's okay. I'm not an engineer or anything else. But let me try to go ahead, Simon. You're going to say something?
Basically, in oscillators, and your oscillators are basically saying, okay, I'm going to add a frequency. I'm going to add and add and add, and all of a sudden I'll have a carry. Right, and when the carry trips in, you know you need to warble. So it's a case of you take, say you want to play something back, because essentially I use a timer IRQ where I say that my timer is set at 7.875 kilohertz, which is essentially every other scan line, which is half of H-sync speed. So you make a frequency table based upon that. You take a musical note, say A4, 440 hertz, right? You take A4, you divide that by 7.875. It gives you a number. You divide that by 8, you times it by 256. It gives you a 16-bit number. That is your frequency counter.
Okay.
Can I chime in?
Sure thing, Nick. Yeah.
All right. Multiple sound. Take 3.
Now we're gonna hear the upside down version of it.
Here's another upside down version of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We're talking 4-voice sound. Let's say. Okay. We've just explained how to do one voice, and we know the DAC is 6 bits in size, so that means numbers between 0 and 63.
Yes.
So let's make a wave, whether it's a sine wave, square wave, triangle wave, even a digital sample, whatever. That one channel sound is going to be 6 bits in resolution, right? So there's your one channel sound, and you throw that out to the DAC, and that's one channel. Okay, let's do 4 of them. Let's have 4 separate channels that are doing that. That means 4 separate values of 64. Let's now add those 4 values together. Now, if each of those sound channels were just on all the time, they would be the value 63 constantly. So it wouldn't be making a sound, but that would be the maximum volume that a sound would be. So if each 4 channels were maximum at value of 63, and we added them all together, what do we get? We get 200 and
56.
Yeah, that's right. Just throw that total value to the DAC, because we said that they were bits, 6 bits. The DAC uses bits 0, 1, 2 to 7, doesn't it?
Upper 6.
Yeah, it uses the upper 6 bits. So if you have 4 channels and each of them is 0 to 63, and they alternate within those values, add the 4 values together, and that will automatically move it up into the upper 6 bits. So you can just dump them to the DAC, and by all the whatever mathematics or whatever, however they work, they mix together. Whether it's accurate or not, it still sounds like 4 channels. That's a simplistic way of doing the 4 channels.
Yeah, it's very
and fast.
Yes. Don't get me wrong; it's very simplistic. But what we do have is one channel. Essentially, we're having cumulative values of multiple channels. Let's just take 2 channels. Have cumulative values, and each oscillator will produce a carry at one point in time, because we're just adding and adding until we produce an overflow, and that will be stored in bit 9, the carry. And this is what we're actually portraying to the DAC. You can use that, if you want a sinus wave, you can use that as a lookup into say a 256 byte sinus table, or a triangle table, or a noise table, or whatever you want to.
It's not 256 byte table. The table can be any length you want. It's the maximum value is 0 to 63.
Yeah, Nick, 256 is a nice number because you can just fiddle the LS button.
Yeah.
And it loops around.
All right, so I want to see if I can paraphrase what Nick Marentes just said. So let's say you have if you had 4 different samples for sound, and you break them into bits, and you see what they look like in a binary pattern of zeros and ones. So now you take all those different patterns of the 4 sounds and you overlay them and you kind of mask them together. You have one kind of composited stacking of these bits, and that final layering becomes one set of data you send to the DAC, and it just knows to make 4 distinct sounds automatically.
You're not overlaying them actually, because that would require you merging the values together. You're adding them, so they're actually you're ending up with a value that's greater than 64. So look, like 2 channels. If you only had 2 channels, the maximum value in each channel is 64.
You had 2 of those, you would have 128, right?
Yeah, that's right. Now you can take that value, but you would have to shift it into the upper 6 bits, because that's where the DAC is. So what's that? 2 shifts or something? So it occupies bits 2 to 7, and that's it. You throw that to the DAC, and you'll have 2 channel sound. But it's not overlaying the values. What you would do there is...
So it's doing a binary add instead of a binary merge.
It's doing an add. It's just doing a normal add. Yeah, that's right. And then
it's cumulative addition.
So there's like math going on here.
So really, you just have to add the values together.
Yeah,
you don't have to shift them. The only reason you shift them is because you need to get them in the upper 6 bits.
The DAC is in the upper 6 bits.
Not really.
That's why I say 4 channel is easier, because you don't have to do the shifting. You just add 4 values together, because the maximum value can't be more than 63 by 40, whatever. It can't be more than 255.
Right.
So it automatically is in a position ready for the DAC. So you do save on 2 shifts. Now, there is one problem you will have there, though, and that is, of course, you can get some stray bits going into bits 0 and 1, which is fine. You won't hear those on the speaker, but the serial port will. So if you have a printer, it'll start buzzing away. It'll start buzzing away. Or if you have drive-by might do weird stuff.
I know Steve was adamant about that, right? I know Steve B was adamant about that, right? It's
but there's a way around that.
You're trusting my printer. You're trusting my printer, but if you program the PIA,
yes,
so that bit 1 is an input and not an output, you don't have.
That's right. So you program your PIA. So those 2 bottom bits are inputs. That's right. So you can go and write data, whatever you want. Okay. Nothing gets out to the PIA. So that way you don't have to worry about it. So
of course, the problem with that, though, I'm going to interject here. The problem with that is after you run a program using that technique of reprogramming the PIA, you better do a complete power down reboot of the computer because your printer won't work again.
No, but
just make resets. So it's a cold reset.
Yeah, I do. And let's face it, if you're running a game, most games lock up the computer anyway, so to get out, you've got to do a whole hard reset anyway. Yeah. But software-wise, you could just write your software so that you reprogram those bits back.
All you need is just put a warning sticker on the game. Warning: this game will screw up your printer. Don't try this at home, kids.
The thing is, your code doesn't have to screw up with that bit. When you go to write the information to the DAC, just do an OR number 2 with it, and that will fix your problem.
You can OR 2, yes, for sure. You can OR 2.
Yeah, all right. I'm trying to save cycles, so I figure if I did nothing, that's better than doing anything at all. So I just program the bits.
All right. In a music routine at 7.8 kilohertz is paramount.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call this one beaten to death at this point. So.
Yeah.
so whose explanation was better? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? Who's the winner?
Number 4. Actually, each of us talked about something different.
Ship them.
Yeah.
I add all of those suggestions together.
Yeah.
You don't have to mask. You don't have to mask off the last bit. You don't have to mask off the last bit because that's tape input.
Listen, Simon, we don't want to hear any of your demo scene crap on this show. You hear me?
I'll tell you what, you need a wedgie.
This has been a great topic for somebody.
It's the Murray Show.
I think this is a good time to put a David Ladd commercial.
Oh, Christ. Let's do that. We need some comic relief right now. Hold on one second here. Oh, my God. Where did he go?
Five wire.
Hit it. All right. So, there are some times when technical information is best served visually. And maybe if we had some pictures to go along with this and some slides or something, it might have been easier to follow. But, yeah, I lost you guys. I appreciate all of the valiant efforts there, but my brain is just not wired to understand half of what you said. But it's an interesting topic. I'm sure it'll come up again. And it'd be interesting maybe to see some code samples of this. Like, here's some code. I know Simon posted that, but maybe a company that maybe somebody could record a video saying, here's a code sample, and here's what it sounds like, and here's another code sample, and here's how we do one sound, here's how we do 2 sounds, and maybe write a little program and make a little video showing and letting us see and hear what the process is like. That's how I would probably absorb it a little better myself, anyways. Mm-hmm. But no, that's cool. Oh, actually, Bruce Moore just joined us. Hey. Bruce Moore, you came here just in time for Jim Brain's favorite part where we're about ready to wrap this show up. We did play teaser number 3, though.
Oh, okay.
We did. We got it in there.
You.
Yeah. I noticed David Ladd was on there, and he said, I like breaking things. Surprise, surprise, right? And we lost Curtis. Yeah, Curtis had to leave. Curtis had a hard out, so we didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Curtis. He just said sound, waveforms, add, divide, multiply. No, it is an interesting topic, and it's something I've always appreciated. Is hearing cool sounding music in games and stuff, and there's been a number of examples of that, and hopefully soon we'll get to the point where we can do it in hardware too and not have to rely on as much on the software. So Bruce, anything you want to tell us before we wrap up this train wreck?
Well, I mean, you saw the trailer, so
yeah.
There's you know, the dark side. Things might not go so well.
Got any theories on 4-voice music? You can be explanation number 4.
Please don't.
No more theories. Sine waves are of the devil, though. I'm pretty sure. So I'm just kidding. No, I'm good. I guess I'll catch the replay. Grant's asking for a release date, but like I say, I want to make sure I've got it all kind of hammered out. I think I've actually got for CoCo Forever. I've got all the external voices other than my own. I think that's all in the bag now. So I just got to crank out the rest of it. So
excellent.
I'm feeling good. Episode 5 is underway. So, and I've got bits of other episodes done too. So
great. All right. Well, there's no better way to bring a show to a close than to talk about 4-voice music. Apparently, so.
I just would like to add one last thing. Interestingly, on the CoCo 3 FPGA at 25 megahertz, I was able to reproduce 16-bit audio at 44,100 hertz. Yeah. So basically CD quality, because they got enough CPU horsepower to do that.
Wow.
With a faster CPU.
Doesn't the FPGA have a sound chip already on it?
Yeah, Gary emulates the ORC-90, and he extends that, which was an 8-bit DAC, but he also extends that to 2 16-bit DACs, which I used and actually played like the first few seconds of Beethoven's Fifth, and it sounded, just as good as a CD. And
but you got to remember, that's not real CoCo hardware.
What I'd kind of like to see is some drivers for Ed Snyder's streaming off the SDC, and see if we can. I mean, that would be cool. I know it would only be probably 8-bit music, but still to stream something right off there, or that could be really handy.
Yeah, and with the fact that the SDC could be made to hold a much larger file than you would normally put on a floppy disk, makes it more possible to play some music. Well, it would still only be 6-bit with the internal DAC of CoCo, but you could play a lot longer piece because you've got much more storage available.
Roger that. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this show. It's been fun. It's been real. And I want to thank everybody who's been here in the live chat with us, too. So we had Steve Bjork in the live chat, Retro Innovations, Steve Powell, Tom C., Ken Make It, Disney Saints fan, and Rick Adams in the live chat, Steve Powell, David Ladd, Rob Inman in the live chat, Dave Phillipsen in the live chat, who has now joined us. And who else? Mark Siegel stopped by for a minute, said hi. Davey Mitchell from the UK was here. And Mark Overholser, James Jones stopped by to see us. Tom C., I think I mentioned. And anybody else? D. Bruce
David
Moore.
Ladd.
David Ladd was in the live chat. Nick Marotta came by and said, hey, Steve. I'm not sure which Steve he said hi to, but we'll both say hi back to you, Nick Marotta.
Hi.
Can make it. He says, buy a switcheroo. Why not? Buy a switcheroo. All the cool kids are doing it.
He was not coaxed to say that either.
He was not. He's got no vested interest in that.
And all returns go to Jim Brain.
Hey, I bought a switcheroo during the show, so there.
Yeah, you sure did.
And I once again want to say my own personal thanks to Grant Leighty and Curtis Boyle and company, everyone else who was here on the panel last week who had a really, really good show. Unlike this week's show, which was a complete train wreck. Maybe when Grant fired me last week, that should have stuck. All right, Ron Delvaux, thanks for being here. D. Bruce Moore, Dave Phillipsen, glad to have you on the show. Nick Marentes with your mathematical theorems. Isn't there an actual theory called music theory? The CoCo Man was here. Steve Bjork is here. Greg Leighty is here. Mark Overholser, Paul Thayer, the Timberman, Simon Jonassen, the chopper of waves, the sawer of teeth, and the coder of demos is here. And we are here. I am SuperCom, and we appreciate y'all for being here. So this is Jim Brain's favorite part of the show, where we start our closing ceremony. And, of course, that is only the beginning of the end, but let's get this train wreck off the rails as soon as possible. So we'll see you here in a couple minutes after the closing credits. Thank you for watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. If you love the color computer like we do, then visit I'mACoconut.com for all your color computer needs. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, then visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/ogStevieStrow. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholser, Grant Leighty, Bruce Moore, Rick Adams, Rom Delvaux, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Nick Marentes, Karen Anscombe, Simon Jonassen, Wayne Campbell, Steve Batson, Brian Joyce, John Strong, and Barry Nelson. Special thanks to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and Brian Joyce for our Best of 2017 episode. Please help support the CoCo community by visiting some of its contributors. The CoCo Crew podcast at CoCoCrew.org. Glenside Color Computer Club, host of CoCo Fest at GlensideCCC.com. Jim Brain and Retro Innovations at Go4Retro.com. Tandy Assembly at TandyAssembly.com. Cloud9 Technologies at Cloud9Tech.com. Boyson Technologies at BoysonTech.com. Bruce is still with us, yeah. Love this song, Bruce. CoCoTALK
All right.
Theme song.
I'm here.
Copyright 2008, D. Bruce Moore and Greg Schalar. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore.
Is that full voice music?
It depends on if you want to add, divide, or multiply.
At least.
It could be a sine wave. It could be a cosine.
I think.
I've actually had people. I've had people cosine for me on loans before.
Do you just do additive synthesis? Do you just add the values together to mix them?
Get ready for that high note.
I suppose.
Yeah!
Does this game longer every week?
You know, I can always provide a shortened version of the theme. We don't have to use the full length.
Listen, man, this is our opus here.
We don't have to.
This is the opus.
It's
Might
nice
be a good
showing
idea.
off all the photos, though.
And we got more. We got more.
Yeah, that's the problem. We got more.
Yeah. So listen, it doesn't matter if you.
The closing is the longest part of the show now.
I think the lesson here, kids, is it doesn't matter if you like to add, divide, or multiply, as long as you math responsibly. All right, so. So
I guess the X of the show's got to be longer because we've got to make Jim happy. That's his favorite part.
Yep, we don't want to lose his support now.
Well, I think we really need a do-over. Let's take it from the top, this time with feeling. How do we really make four-voice music?
Okay, if we're going to go through the subject again, you got to get the security guards out so we can stop the fights.
And visual aids. You have visual aids.
Make sure you math responsibly at home, kids. That's right. Make sure you
always have a hatchet.
Have your protractors handy.
Well, I mentioned earlier my supportive wife, so I'm going to go. So.
All right, you do that. You do that.
Seriously, if you want to pick my brain, get on Discord.
What's your angle, or what do I find you as? I don't know how that Discord thing works.
Well, you get part of CoCoTALK Discord. You know, you get on that section, and I think you can find me real easy because it's Steve Bjork.
Yeah,
that sounds
Well, we're going to post it in the Skype chat. We'll post you the link to join our Discord server. You just have to download Discord on your platform of choice, and you join a server, and then we'll guide you from
better
there.
than the web host one.
Yeah.
It's like joining.
I also wanted to share with you some development tools because I knew you were trying to set something up, and I just wanted to show you some options in case you didn't know about them. So
definitely,
but we'll talk sometime.
We'll definitely
I'll be down in Florida for the next week, so I might end up on there sometime. So.
Okay, that sounds good.
Actually, Steve, in the Facebook group, why don't you do a post of the link again for Discord?
Okay, I'll post it in the Facebook group. Yeah.
Adios, guys. See ya.
All right, take care. Take care, Paul.
Has the recording been stopped or?
No. We're still going. We haven't done the post credits yet. So
stream is still on too.
We're still going. So that was the credits. We're going to prolong Jim's agony as long as we possibly can here.
Oh boy.
So this is
rage quit.
This is the post credits. Little bonus content here, but now we have the super duper post credits scene right now, so stay tuned for this, boys and girls, and then we'll get back to more fascinating conversations on sine waves in 6-bit edition.
Good morning.
Super duper
CoCo Fest, and we're excited to be here even on this last day, and it's sad in a way, but it's happy in another way that we're only 365 days from the next one. So glad to have met SuperCom in the flesh, and hope to meet a lot more of you next time. But until then, let's have fun.
Hi, I'm David Ladd. Thank you for watching SuperCom.
Floppy.
Good morning, Coco Land. This is Brian Schubring with Music Man here at the CoCo Fest. Having fun, fixing issues, and making things roll, and making lots of sound. Have a great day, guys.
Orbit music. Let's take it from the top. This time with feeling.
What is all this?
Hi there, this is Mark Overholser, and you're watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly talk show where you can join in. Hey, come watch us and see what's happening in the world of
We need
Coco.
to get Stevie a tripod.
Don't miss next year's CoCo Fest.
Hey, this is Eric, and you're listening to CoCoTALK. Hi, this is Max Jackson live from CoCo Fest, and you listen to The Real Gamer, SuperCom.
Hi, this is Rick Adams, and I'm the author of Temple of Brahm, Shanghai, and now Bomb Threat, and you're listening to SuperCom on CoCoTALK.
Hi, this is Sean Wheatley, and you're listening to CoCoTALK, the original gamer, SuperCom.
Hi, I'm Bruce Moore, and this is Jacob Moore, Catcha, and we are the Forest of Doom guys, and the Coco Forever guys, and we're at CoCo Fest, and we love SuperCom.
Hi, this is Curtis Boyle, part of the CoCoTALK crew of people, and a lot of us are here down at the CoCo Fest, having a great time. It's the second day, and we're just about done, so you guys have to come out next year.
Hello, I'm David Ladd.
Drive by,
for
lobbies,
CoCoTALK,
drive by,
the world's
cereal.
leading live CoCoTALK show.
Something like that.
You want to do it over? We want to do it over?
That's right.
All right.
The world's leading weekly CoCoTALK show. Yeah, something like that.
All right, we're rolling. You say
More
whatever you
drive
want to say,
by,
David.
more floppies.
Keep making faces at him.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
We need to put on that video
CoCo Fest.
a little
How sad are you?
mushroom
Or happy are
cloud coming out the top of his head.
I'm just tired.
Hey there, I'm Mark Overholser, and you're watching CoCoTALK, nation world's leading weekly Tandy computer.
Thank you, David Ladd. Now get back up there for 1 second.
Oh, jeez.
Come on.
What? What?
Let's get some drive wire, TTL,
No,
ESP.
no, we don't need any drive wire or TTL.
Hi, it's Ron Delvaux, Timberman, and this is CoCoTALK.
Minus the propeller.
Oh.
Mikey.
Well, we're just about 3 hours.
The last hour was just the credits.
That was only 2 hours 45.
Here we go. We'll play the credits again so we just make the full 3 hours.
Hey, that man's got a plan.
Play him upside down the second time.
So I can see it.
What are you still doing here? It's over.
I like that one.
There's that guy.
Shorten the credits and put him at the end so that everybody knows to go home.
Go home. Go home, folks. Go home, folks.
Go
All right.
home.
We have definitely beat this one to death. Yeah, so Retro Innovation says selfies with 80s has-beens. Tom C says it's like a case of repeating heartburn. These credits are long. Ken says these credits are longer than the Return of the King extended edition. All right, so there we go. There's one in every crowd. All right, guys, thank you so much. We've almost broken the 3-hour limit. I think we broke the 3-cat limit. We got plenty of cats here, and thank you for watching.
One dog.
And one dog, and we'll see you again in the near future. Until then, CoCo forever, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.